Just help us make good decisions and wise decisions. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Y'all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No one has signed up for public comment.
All right. Thank you so much, Bob. So moving on to new business, discuss, consider possible, take action on approving ordinance number 07232018, ordinance amending the fee schedule of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Granger. This is we had never codified our fee schedule, and we basically just need to make our fee schedule legal, is what this is. And so if y'all turn back here, y'all excuse me, I think it's 3 pages in. This is our fee schedule. And I highlighted it on the one at home, which I did not bring with me. The one that were changed. Do you remember off the top of your head by any chance?
There were some in the subdivision section. What it is there were some that just I didn't have fees for, because I don't know where the old Appendix A is, which this is what this section is Appendix A. So I didn't know where that was, so the one that I had gotten from Janine, I kind of updated it from that one and just simplified it a little bit more and updated it at the same time. I wasn't too sure about the cemetery prices, so if y'all see something on that one that needs to change or come off, let me know and I can change that and y'all can still approve it with those changes.
So to explain what she was meaning by Janine, there was handwritten notes on Janine's. She had one that was identical.
It looks like this, yeah.
It looked identical to this, but there was off to the side, there were handwritten changes made, and they weren't codified. So we need to codify it.
Sure.
To charge these prices, that needs to actually be an ordinance. And so if everybody just wants to read over it, and I don't know, see if y'all catch anything.
Yeah, some of this is so for the subdivision and the planning, those were some additional charges. It says it in the ordinance, but it says everything is in Appendix A in the city secretary's office, and I didn't find that, so this is just reestablishing that is all this is.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and just throw this out there. The $300 maintenance for the cemetery.
Nobody could explain to me what that was. That's how it was on the original thing. Nobody can explain to me what that
Well, there
was.
was perpetual maintenance, and there was people that are supposed to be paying that. To my knowledge, nobody pays it.
Okay.
They do when they buy the plot now, they are paying.
So one-time fee? Right?
Yes, per spot.
Okay.
So it's $300 per spot and $300 per day. So there used to be dues that were paid. Some paid them some things, some bragged about it and said, I'll do it myself. And, we were still paying somebody to mow the cemetery. So they just went to it used to be, I think,
So,
way back when, it used to be like 25 and 25, so, I mean, it does need to go up, because there's so many people out there that are not paid for anything, and they just keep burying it.
well, I'll throw this out there. I don't think, the maintenance fee shouldn't even be an option, because once your family is gone, now we could do it like New Orleans. I learned something in New Orleans. They repossess the grave sites. And so if you do not maintain,
I think
I agree with you.
a great idea.
And so, because I went into the cemetery, I'll tell you all the story now. I went into the cemetery and I was like, why are
Again, about removing a dead body.
you know how they have them above the ground, the concrete hills? I was like, why are some of these beautiful and others the names have been ripped off? I was like, does the city not like protect these? And they were like, oh no, those are repossessed.
Permits.
They go because the family quit quit paying maintenance, and so they come in and take the names off. And so I was like, and then they resell the plot. Because they don't actually put the bodies in there, they just put hatches. And so, which we're not set up that way, but I guess where I was going with that long story, I think the cemetery maintenance fee should probably be included in the price of the lot. I mean, what do you?
So I can just do a slash
Well,
on the
I
bottom
want
part?
everybody's opinion, I
Okay.
mean, and just don't do it without, I want to hear what y'all have to say, I mean, y'all, I guess.
Well, I'm being buried at Mount Calvary.
Okay.
And over there, when you get your lot, you pay more, and then they
It's in there.
perpetual, yeah, it's a one-time thing.
So,
You mind me asking what it is?
I bought it over probably 40 years ago,
Okay.
so I don't remember what it cost me then, and I don't know what it is now, but I can always find out, because James Jamaica's over that.
I have a couple of questions on it. So the annual fee was set up where every year they were supposed to be paying that.
They were supposed to be paying like between 5 and, however many spots they had. They had 12, they paid $5 a spot or something.
Okay.
And then, they would send out a card and they paid it. And some people, they got to, buy spots for $25. And then no maintenance fee was paid. And so, or it was $25, period. So, in order for us to actually cover the cost of the cemetery mowing, we need to go on it,
So
because it's not covered.
a quarter lot covers how many spots?
There's 12.
See, that's what
And
I think
most
you're
of the
telling me about
spaces,
fitting this
most of
together.
the lots are 12 spaces.
Okay.
There are a few that are 8, and a couple, I think, need 6, just depends.
So I can, this is gonna sound morbid, I don't know how else to say this though. So I can bury 3 people for $900 forever.
right?
That's it.
You can bury more now.
No, it would be
Cremation.
3, it would be 18. 18. And you cannot bury nobody.
What about if they're cremated? Isn't it 2/3 lot?
So is the,
No.
I think, okay, so you pay a space fee and a perpetual care fee. Okay, so I think this annual fee for maintenance really should be a one-time fee,
One time.
front end.
one-time fee per spot or per space,
It's now.
instead of the wording that is said in here.
This is the wording I got off of it, just so you
Oh,
know.
I know.
It's,
Because nobody could explain it to me, and I was like, okay, well,
well,
One time
So,
maintenance fee.
so both of these are supposed to be one-time maintenance fees.
It's one time.
Just the wording of it.
So can you buy less than 3 spots at a time?
You can buy one. You can buy as many as you want, and that's as long as there's, room in that square, you can buy 12 if you
You
want.
get a
So
discount.
why do we
for group
need
rate.
3 different line items on it?
that's,
We don't.
Just charge it per spot.
So,
I'll throw this out there, the 812 square feet, I come up with $22.55 a square foot.
under which, under the perpetual trust?
800 square feet for 3,600. And I mean, I guess where I'm coming from, and I'll just throw this out there, Frank and his guys probably spend
Too long.
5 days mowing the cemetery, and, I mean, that's conservative, but, and y'all, sometimes y'all do it twice a month. So we're looking at a week, 2 weeks maybe, mowing the cemetery, and this is a one-time fee, so really, I guess where I'm going with this is, we're mowing the cemetery on the back of our water sewer department.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely. But here's my,
Go ahead.
can we wait on the amount being charged and do a study on the surrounding areas of what these cemeteries are charging? So that we can get a baseline and do the same thing? And just charge it one per
We can
plot?
do that, because we did this last year, I remember, we raised these rates.
And my question is, why can you not put 2 cremated people per plot?
It just isn't in the ordinance to do.
I think that's a way.
and that was something I was actually gonna mention too. Before y'all change the way the wording is,
Look at the ordinance.
we gotta look at the ordinance to see what it says, because you've gotta follow it.
Okay.
Or you've got to change it to where this complies, because basically you're taking these prices and making it to where it matches the ordinance, whatever the ordinance says.
Is the perpetual fund deposits being put in a separate account and maintained separately?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
That got rolled out when we took over the mowing.
That cemetery CD, that they're already put in the last.
Yeah, that's how we bought all the equipment.
So the money just stays in
'Cause-
cemetery sales right
Yeah.
now. I don't even think it's split out.
That's how we bought those mowers and the mule and all that.
The mule,
Which
the
we use in the
sprayers, and all
cemetery.
that was purchased for the cemetery to maintain the cemetery.
We need to
And we can use it to maintain our
Like Taylor,
streets
what
as
they
well.
charge.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a couple comments on this. First of all, Rachel, you pulled this wording for this spreadsheet so
From what you
that it
already
would
have.
match what we have in the ordinances that you can find, correct?
Well, this is what y'all already had in the ordinance.
Okay, so all we're really doing tonight is dealing with getting this codified and not making any changes,
Well,
correct?
it's mostly updating it so we actually have an appendix A when I'm looking for it, because I don't have one of these that have the subdivision charges on it or the zoning on it. And in order to go forward with the subdivision, I need those charges.
Okay, so we can approve this tonight and then change it
Yeah,
later.
and you
That's
you
what-
can amend it later.
I think that's, because I see a lot
Instead
of.
of getting into the weeds.
Yeah, we need to get this updated, like Frank was saying is, we need to get it updated so that it's actually applicable to all the surrounding areas. And I don't like this wording that's on here. I don't know if we can change this wording about an annual fee. Because to me, that means that every year they're supposed to pay.
Yeah, and they're not.
Yeah, and I think that's the way it read.
So that's,
So we do need to come back and address this, but I think from what I'm understanding from you is each time we change one of these,
Gotta get it
we're going to have
recodified.
to change that ordinance so that it is updated, correct?
Depending on how you change it, yes. It all depends on how, if you're just updating amounts, then no, you won't. Kind of like on, if you go to the fourth page, how I have utilities, well, y'all are always updating the ordinance for utilities, so I didn't put that on here, separating all the fees and stuff, because y'all do that pretty much annually.
Okay.
So that one, I mean, it's gonna have its own ordinance, and you don't have to worry about that one, because that one will change.
Are the rest of these not separate ordinances? It's one big
No,
one?
there's still separate ordinances,
Okay.
it's just everything refers back to this page. So it's kind of like a master fee schedule is what it is. It
Okay.
just puts everything into one worksheet.
So I guess basically, look through, if y'all see a price that you don't like, we can change it tonight, but we probably shouldn't move things around. The what?
Do some research first.
Well, right, but I mean like more on,
Stands out.
If these are what we're currently charging, have you,
Can you pull your mic a little closer, because I can barely hear you.
I'm so sorry. Is this better? Is it better?
No.
Am I on?
Yes, you're on.
All
Everybody.
right, is this better? Can you hear me? Okay. So have y'all looked at the fee schedule?
I have not gotten to see what you has.
this, Janine does this.
Oh, Janine doesn't. Okay.
Yes.
Is it in line with what's in the computer also?
Yes, that I do.
There's some things that they're charging for that you don't even have an ordinance for.
Yep.
And then it's kind of like the solicitation permit. Y'all don't have she does a 3-day permit. Y'all don't have that in the ordinance. Y'all only have a 1-day permit, a 30-day permit, and a 6-month permit.
Yeah, those
So the
need
only
to
thing
go
she
up.
can do is charge 3 1-day permits, because she charges $30 for that.
Yeah, those numbers need to go up because they're annoying.
You dang right, and they're scammers.
I'll put that on
They
record.
always come after 7 o'clock.
She said $10 a day, so I just figured.
Don't always come after
$8 for
7.
30 days.
I'm sorry, what page is that on?
The solicitation.
Solicitation 3 or 4.
Page 3.
Oh,
They
gotcha.
do need to go up so that we have that, because they send them up from Houston and drop them all.
Yes.
Do the same thing
And
for
they
mums.
dedicate the fees, and then they're stuck in the city
Well,
until they come around and pick it up.
And there's a huge process with that that's also not being followed. I mean, they're supposed to send a statement of that they weren't convicted of a felony within the last 5 years, and that's not being done. I mean, there's a lot of different process that goes with that wasn't being done either.
And we can't cover the cost of doing all that administrative paperwork on $10.
Well, I'm more thinking about our citizens. I'm not real worried about, I'm worried about y'all spending time on it. Don't get it that wrong, but
You don't want nobody knocking on your door.
I get people that want to force their way in the house.
My
and it
debit
annoys
card and
me.
everything.
I think the main thing here is approve what we're currently using, and then let's come back and change it if need be.
All right, let me ask one silly question. So solicitation, does this count for a lemonade stand of a little girl that wants to sell lemonade?
No.
It exempts charitable nonprofits, stuff like that. It does exempt them.
Why would you
They're
put
exempt.
on a dress and put up a lemonade stand?
When I get,
Hey, you never know.
when I get these guys,
So
when I get
I'm
these
just
guys
wanting to
in
know,
town that are walking around and they're trying to sell you electricity from somebody else or a different type of phone service.
or a
okay?
security deal who
Or
knocked on my door
security
the other
alarm
day.
system.
He's the one I was
Okay,
talking about.
I give them a choice. You can go over to City Hall and get your $10 permit, or I will write you a citation and you can visit with our friendly municipal judge, and it may cost you $100.
Or 50.
That's all.
So anybody want to throw a number out there what they think the one-day permit should be?
$50.
You bet, $50 bucks
Everybody good on that?
$50 per day.
per day.
I think so.
And then that would
If that ain't
also
good enough,
adjust
we'll go
the
100.
30-day and 6-month permits
make it a-
accordingly.
Each per.
I just say day.
I'm trying to think of a set each
Just do the
person.
$50 per day, that's gonna scare
Just
most
drop
of
it.
them.
As long as you're here.
Do $50 per day.
Per
They're not
person.
gonna come back and, how many people come back?
Hartman is like $25 for 2 weeks or something.
That's fine.
Well,
I'm
so,
good with them all going to Bartlett. I have a question. How many people buy a 30-day or a 6-month permit? Okay.
So don't need it.
Can we eliminate
Can we-
those
Oh,
two?
that gets into the ordinance. We
It's in the
can't strike
ordinance.
that. Okay, so, but we can change the dollar amount.
Yes.
$50 a day per person,
That's not
because
even-
sometimes they have 2 or 3.
Yeah.
would y'all like
Well,
to
we
change
can
the
change
30-day to
that.
150?
Hold on, I'm working on that.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Are you gonna do cents per household?
And Bob said.
I mean,
I see what you're saying, go ahead. Continue your thought.
until we can change it to just strictly doing a daily rate.
Well, that would have to change
I
our
know,
ordinance.
until we can do that, we can change the dollar amount.
Okay,
So do $50 per day.
Per person.
1,500 for a 30-day. And
I see where you're coming from.
$5,000
I can change the dollar amount, but I can't change the ordinance. So
I see.
change it to $50 a day, all the way through them all.
Yeah.
Right.
What's the 6-month permit gonna cost?
Times six.
That's $180.
9,000,
How much?
9,000.
Sounds good to me.
Bring new $75.
So essentially,
I do have to say, there are, the one that comes around with DirecTV and AT&T, they get around this by saying, I'm here to maintain their account. So they're gonna come to me and they're gonna say, because you have DirecTV and AT&T, you need to do this, this, and this with your account.
Yep.
And blah, blah, blah,
But-
and they're gonna get around it.
Do they have a customer list when they come to you?
They usually have a clipboard in their hand, but I.
Isn't
Yeah,
it,
that don't mean
Let me-
nothing, yeah.
they simply can send out a letter. They don't have to come into our
But that's
town.
how they've been getting around getting.
So that's what I'm saying, they can mail a letter, and if we make it high enough,
If
they
our
won't be
ordinance,
here on
if,
fee.
if our ordinance doesn't say anything about that, then, I mean, I don't see how they can get around that.
The argument that piqued my interest last year was the guy who sent some people over here to sell insurance in town.
Yep.
And he says that state law exempts them from solicitation ordinances, and I said, well, I don't see anything in our municipal ordinance that says you're exempt, so therefore you need a permit. You wanna argue about it, we'll just go visit with our judge.
Did he leave?
They went away.
Yeah, for
I
some
have
reason
a
they
question
left.
for you. Is our ordinance fee violation set by state law?
No. here's the way it
How does
works.
that work?
You have state law, which is your broad beam up here. Then you have your local and municipal ordinances that get more narrow. Okay? So state law doesn't set any fees for solicitation, but the city can.
Okay.
Our max,
So-
max everything up to either 150 or 200.
And $50.
Is that the max that it can be?
200 is the max for the fine. That-
Because the last thing, if people are coming in and getting a 3-day permit, we don't need it to be at $150. Because why would I go get a permit and fill out the paperwork if I can just pay a fee and go to court?
Yeah, he'll
Well,
just
but
dismiss it.
here's my attitude about that. If I catch you on day one and you don't have a permit, you get a ticket. I catch you on day two, you get another ticket, and day
That
three,
makes-
you get another
That
ticket.
makes sense. I can go with that. Okay, sorry. I'm trying to get some clarification.
Yeah,
It makes sense in my mind.
I could be not very nice about that.
Well, you can just put this on your list to go and revise or amend the ordinance, so you can take away the 6 months and even the 30-day if you want. And
So-
only do a 1-day and a 3-day.
Can I ask a question
Mm-hmm.
on this? This does not include, like, the insurance people who come around every month and collect the premiums?
No, that's,
That's a
If they're
debit
collecting-
route.
if they're collecting money, that is not solicitation.
That's not solicitation.
I just wanted to make sure about that, because I know there are some people in town who's, has an insurance agent that comes out.
That'd be
Oh.
totally different.
I kind of disagree with that method of business
Yeah, you have
because what's wrong with the person mailing their money
Exactly.
check in or, I just think that's ridiculous.
Okay.
That's why we have
I mean, at least what I'd do is do $50 per day on this and at least raise the 30 to 500 and the 6 to 1,000 at least until we can strike those.
Everybody okay with that?
So you said 30 to 500?
50 on the one day,
Okay.
300 to 500,
There you go. And then the
and then
550.
6 month goes to 1,000.
Okay.
I mean, no one's buying those anyways, so
Yeah,
there's no point in really having them and just do a 1-day period.
and we do check, when they come in town, they buy a permit for 1 day. On day 2, if they're out there selling again, okay, now you have your choice again. You can go buy another permit or you can get a ticket. Fair enough.
And they do just supply their driver's license when they come in. No, they just don't.
That's something that we weren't doing before I got here and now we do.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask a question, because it's on here. Under the pools,
Under the what?
this is under new construction.
Yes, I saw that too.
Sorry. Are we charging all these fees for pools for above ground?
Only if we know they're there.
If they come in,
A lot of citizens aren't claiming they have a pool,
they just put them up.
therefore they're not paying.
I had a.
They're usually the ones who complain about the water bill because they don't realize they have to pay to fill it.
Mm-hmm.
But,
And then they
no,
get
I mean,
found
that's
out.
honest truth, because I'll go out because there'll be a complaint about their bill being higher, and I'll say, Janine, they have a pool. She'll say, well, I didn't know they had a pool. Well, they do. So she'll get back with them and say, do you realize that we do have a permit fee, that when you put a pool in, you should have come to City Hall, and then sometimes they will come in and pay, and sometimes they just won't.
Yeah, it's $16, that's all I
But
had.
it's one of those things that we don't have real good enforcement on.
Well, yeah, but when I look at under swimming pools, there's a lot of different,
I'm with you. Like,
Fees.
That's basically, if you add all those up, it's like 500 something dollars.
Yeah.
Is that for in-ground or above ground?
That's a in-ground.
Okay, so let me
Okay.
clarify that, that's right.
okay,
that's
so it's only for
That
in-ground.
costs more than pool though.
Yeah, but,
Okay.
yeah, it's like,
$16 flat fee for above ground, and then your in-ground has everything else.
As it should.
All the other.
I think it's,
So is it split between a above ground, I will use this term, permanent structure versus a above ground?
As long as it's above.
Temporary
ground, it's not
structure.
Dubbed under, you're
Is it split on the, I can't see the actual ordinance, so therefore,
There's no
I
ordinance.
understand your question.
That probably ought to be reviewed at some point too. I mean, it's one thing if you go out and you get one of these blow-up 3-foot pools.
Right.
It's another thing if you're putting a structure in to make sure that they don't have an electrical cord running across their yard to power
Well, they're also supposed to get a
Oh, they do.
backflow
preventer.
Right.
preventer.
Well, that's state law.
Permit.
Which is supposed to have been administered years ago and not.
And that's really the
State
reason
law
we did
says
this in
that-
the first place.
Yes.
By TCQ, every single house faucet is supposed to have a backflow preventer, and I'm only bet most.
We put that in our ordinance, but I don't think that ordinance got filed properly, so therefore,
Well, but it's TCQ,
I know.
which trumps whatever we do. We just can't find them for it. Okay, so we probably ought, I mean, without going any more in the weeds, we probably ought to just approve this,
Jam this
but
thing down.
there's some things that we really need to look at
Model.
and modify. I mean, there's a difference between the Walmart pop-up pool versus.
But this goes back to an ordinance thing, not a price.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
an
go
ordinance.
back and specify a size, if it's more than 10 feet wide, or if it's more than 4 feet deep.
How many
you know.
gallons?
Yeah, I mean, then you have to do this, this, and this as far as permits, and, I mean, you can always specify how you want it
That's another day.
to
Yeah.
charge it, yeah.
That'd be, okay.
Gotcha.
Still don't like the cemetery numbers.
Well, we can come back on the cemetery.
But the subdivision's solid, that seems to be pretty status quo.
Yeah.
Okay, gets us kind of covered.
What is?
Subdivision,
Subdivision stuff.
it's kind of the major concern.
The last page, we have rezoning request, variance. Rachel, if you wouldn't mind, just because I think we're going to be dealing with this, if you could go through and kind of explain these.
Yeah, basically, after we, or actually maybe before, I'm still not sure how the process is gonna go as far as the zoning part of it versus the subdivision. Because she's wanting to do everything together, but when it comes to, the subdivision plat, she's gonna have to come and meet with us. I don't know how y'all wanna do that, if it's gonna be council, Trevor or whoever, but that way he can review the plat, and if he thinks it's okay, or if y'all think it's okay, then you go on to the next section, which is gonna be the preliminary plat. And that's gonna be when that's really when the process is really gonna get started. That's gonna go to P and Z, and then after P and Z approves it, or they gotta go back for different changes, then it's gonna come back to y'all, and y'all will, approve the final plat. So, and then of course, after the final plat's done, then you're gonna have to report it at the county. And then, if for some reason in the future you have someone that wants to do a plat, but it's not necessarily a subdivision, then that's kind of what a minor plat would be. And then you have variance, for subdivision regulations, that's if they want to go a different route of what the subdivision ordinance requires, such as lot sizes.
That an HMO?
Huh?
Can they do their HMO that counters ours too?
HMO?
Home association?
Okay.
Yeah, they have separate regulations from our city.
Yeah, I would think that even with the homeowners association, they would still have to follow the city's.
HMO.
They actually are
HOAs.
tighter than
Yeah.
ours.
HOAs have to be, so you have state regulations, you have county regulations, you have city regulations, and then if you live in a HOA.
Right.
You can be
They have
stricter,
more,
so that's
yeah.
the.
HOAs are private agreements.
HOA is basically gonna tell you, you can't paint your house blue.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
You can't put a sign in, yeah, you can't have.
That's
Yeah.
a
Well,
So they're gonna be more
private.
strict.
But HOAs can also relieve pressure off of our police department, because HOAs
Self-policed.
can self-police themselves with yards and other
Well,
things.
that's why I'm at.
I am one of those people that I will never live in a house that has an HOA.
Yes, me
It's
neither.
just me.
Nope, I wouldn't either.
But there are some good benefits.
Well, the last time, that's why I bring this up, is the woman that was here, she had said about having that, and that's why I brought it up.
And they haven't moved forward with it yet. They're still determining the cost.
But I mean,
Because homeowners association, she said, cost a lot of money.
yes, it does, and I could advise everybody not to have that.
My personal opinion is, before we do the, this is really off topic.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
going to
it's-
refrain from my comments.
So
We'll
we'll,
roll with this for now.
Is everybody okay with the prices that they see in
Does that
front of them?
look like good enough
And we
prices
can always
for,
come
like,
back and change things,
inspectors
like it-
that have to
like-
come in and all that, or
Well,
is that
the
get separate?
inspectors is something that I'm trying to see about getting a quote with, Bureau Veritas and then bringing it to y'all. With the new subdivision, I don't know if the current inspector is gonna know all the requirements or if he's gonna be able to even keep up later on, so.
Do you mean Elias?
I'm sorry, huh?
Elias?
That's,
I've
Yeah, we
heard
have two
several-
of them. We have
I would
Elias.
recommend.
I think I've heard several different names, so.
Well, Elias is our fire inspector and then
Bobby Belcher.
building
He's
inspector. So
actually
who's
the
our
building inspector.
Bobby
and
Belcher,
that-
sorry. So we have both of them and they're both equally slow. So,
They work part-time.
right.
We.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better inspection.
Yeah,
And then, so if y'all decide to hire Bureau Veritas, then the prices will of course change and you'll just be adopting their contract and those prices are in with the contract. And it's normally 10% of what their fee is, so the city would get the 10% and then they would get the rest of it.
But again, that would be done by the ordinance change.
Yeah, that would be by ordinance and, yeah.
Okay. So minus the changes in solicitation to 50-day for 1-day permit, let me restart this. I make a motion that we approve the Appendix A Schedule of Fees and Charges. Excuse me. I make a motion on approving ordinance number 0723201801, an ordinance amending the fee schedule of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Granger, Texas, and containing findings and provisions relating to the subject with the fee schedule Appendix A. The only change would be the solicitation would go to a $50 per day permit. The 30-day would be a $500 permit, and the 6-month would be a $1,000 permit.
Can you add in your motion that we make the adjustments as necessary and modify it when we need?
Well, it would have to come back before council anyways, so it didn't have to be in the motion.
Okay, well, I second the motion then, as is.
All in favor?
Sir.
All right. All opposed by the same? Seeing none, motion carries.
Now, I'm going to make a note along with what Monica was saying. We have got to come back and revisit some of this.
Oh, I agree.
Like the pool, we need to put, I really don't care if they go to Walmart and they get one of these pop-up pools and they forget to come by City Hall and pay $16. I don't think we ought to go give them a ticket if it was one of these little bitty pools, or a kiddie pool, a dog pool.
Well, that's why I'm saying
We
you
need
can
work on
specify.
the
If
ordinances.
they're spending $400 for a pool, then they need to get a
Yeah.
permit.
I think it's fair.
We need to start looking at it and put some exemptions in there and look at each of these ordinances to fix it before we get blindsided.
All right, well, moving on to number 2 on the new business, discuss, consider possible action, take action in appointment of planning and zoning committee members.
So I didn't receive any applications, so I can just put this on the next agenda.
Okay.
Okay, and I do know Mark Harwell is out of town. He had a family emergency, a funeral.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question. Was this in addition to the ones that were already, we don't have that recording?
We needed to redo it to get it codified. Okay. Because it wasn't done correctly. So,
so at this point, there's
Next
no one
meeting.
assigned.
correct.
Motion for no action? Do you have to make a motion for no action?
Yeah, somebody would,
Okay.
well, we don't have to, okay, then we're good. We'll just put it on next month's agenda. Moving on to number 3, discuss, consider possible action, take action on approving an interlocal agreement between Granger Independent School District and the City of Granger for the provision of a school resource officer. And then, if y'all go back here, sorry, I saw it earlier, Bob's got the contract in here.
Right after.
Contract is in here, this is the agreed term. We changed the term to match our fiscal year because in order to receive funds, you have to have a line item to receive funds from a source. and distribute said funds. So, we changed the contract term to match our fiscal year. Our fiscal year differs from the school board's fiscal year. But Mr. Willis says that's not a problem for them because they have a lot more latitude than we do. They're operating under the education code, we operate under the government code, so it's a little bit different. Anyway, they basically agreed to everything we asked for at the price we asked for, $50,665.92, which is, we bill 1 month in advance for, so September the 1st, I sent them a bill for October. So we've got our money in hand.
This says 66692.
I'm sorry, Jim.
You said $95? You said 695, and this says 50,666.92.
Oh, they made a mistake and I didn't see it. Okay, I mean, we're only incurred for $50,665.92. That's, we can adjust that figure, manually, just draw a line through it, right? $50,665.92. Somebody made a typo, that's all.
Okay.
That's their typo or our typo?
Their typo. Their attorney drew this, interlocal agreement up.
Well, why don't we just approve it the way it is?
$1. Have they approved this as is?
Yeah, they
Then let's
agreed to
approve
it.
We need to approve it as is, so we don't have any.
It's a $1 bump right there.
I mean, it's a $1 bump.
That's your bonus, chief.
Deal maker right there.
Because I don't know what they've done on their end, so if they're a training.
I mean, I'm sure, I mean, fairness is fairness, but y'all can do what you want to.
Well,
But if we pass different than what they passed, it may create issues between the two entities.
They haven't passed anything yet. They're
Oh, they
waiting
have
for
not.
us. Yes,
Okay,
they're waiting for us.
then we need to change that.
I would recommend just the contract that y'all direct the mayor to sign, all he has to do, because in Texas, written controls the contract. Just draw a line through the 50,666.92 and make it 50,665.92.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. Do you have this contract?
Yes,
Number 5.
number 5.
Who determines that normally?
That's an agreement between me and them. And that 10-month period there, they know that during the regular school year's 10 months, that the officer is going to be on campus when he's on duty. Okay? That's all that means. During the 2 months that the school is closed, he's working for the city of Granger.
Fair enough.
Okay, so where's that money coming from?
Them.
That's included.
They're gonna pay for those 2 months?
They're paying for the full year.
There
without-
has to be an agreement, this figure here, this 50,665.92 is a 12-month, 365-day price. They have agreed to that price.
Now, what we're going to pay, I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, chief, this price is going to cover the salary pretty much.
Yeah.
What it's not going to cover is we're going to have to pay for uniform, we're going to have to pay for some equipment, so we're going to have costs with this
Yeah.
officer
But-
working for the city of Granger above and beyond the 50,000.
But we are going to have benefits from this
Yeah.
option.
Because we're going to be getting an officer for 2 months out of the year that can allow for Officer Thomas and
Chief to take vacation, during, the summer months, as opposed to not having an officer on duty.
I do not like that normal.
Also, it's going to help develop a relationship with the kids here that live here locally. And since they're paying it, our cost to the city should be very minimal.
Even the county SROs, the various locales of use, like here, Round Rock Independent School District 6 deputies that work in their schools that are outside the city limits of Round Rock. They're being charged $185,000 a year for those deputies. When the school is closed, those deputies are working as patrol deputies in the county. This is a standard contract used by school districts all over Texas for the same thing.
What does Exhibit A say?
Exhibit A is this right here.
Yeah, behind you here.
Which breaks out
Breakdown the salary.
the salary and the payments for the position.
Total comp plan.
There you
So
go.
that needs to be written as Exhibit A.
But we don't care.
Easier point of
Yes.
reference, yeah, make that exhibit A.
We've got to
on here
make sure
somewhere.
that this is referenced as Exhibit A.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That makes sense.
Okay, so I'm gonna go, I'm not trying to beat this, chief, but this wording really bugs me.
Any legal.
The officer assigned to GISD under this agreement shall be assigned normally during a 10-month period.
Right.
So when I read this, I can take this a lot of different ways. I can take this as normally it will be within a 10-month term,
But it could also be extended.
but it
for some-
could refer to this 50,000 covering summer school.
Yeah.
That's one way I can take normally. Another normally would be that if you need him for an incident in the city, he can be pulled for city use. And I know I'm getting hung up on a single word. Was the attorney the only one that came up with this wording?
No. These are, let's turn our Wayback Machine to almost 20 years ago, when I was the administrator in charge of the West Side School Task Force. I dealt with 4 school districts. We had Houston police officers assigned to those school districts. 2 of them had their own school district police departments. This contract here is pretty much industry standard. It just simply states that during their school year, which is 10 months, okay, they want the officer assigned to the school. That's fine. That doesn't mean that if we have some disaster or event, that we can't pull that officer from the school. Because my agreement with the school district is I control the officer. The officer works at my discretion.
Where is that in this?
It's buried there. It's buried there.
It's the underlying ordinance.
Yeah, it's, if you go back to services provided, it outlines the responsibilities of me and the school district. Number 2.
When I was the SRO for those 2 months, there were a couple of times that, as the SRO, I left the school to go do something on the street. One being, the chief found a stolen vehicle and took the guy down at gunpoint. I left the school, went to Sister Hill until I've done everything I needed to do.
That verbiage allows you that flexibility, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that's one of those, he's got somebody at gunpoint, he needs backup.
Yeah, that's priority.
I'm the closest guy, I'm coming.
Yeah,
The school's perfectly cool with that.
Yeah.
Also went to a fire one day. While I was doing that. Somebody was burning some stuff.
the operational policies for the SRO are what me and Randy Willis agree on.
Yeah.
Okay? And he has already said that I'm the person in charge. And I am not going to.
Verbal doesn't hold up very good.
The issue here is how much trust does Randy Willis, the superintendent of the school district, place in the police department? I think it's evident in the last 4 years, he's placed a lot of trust in us. And we've done a lot to build that trust. The culmination of that, bridge building is this contract. This is good for the people of Granger, it's good for the citizens of Granger, and I hope that y'all will go ahead and authorize the mayor to sign it.
Pretty much states are up there, right?
Yeah, that's where I went back and read, and it
Pretty bold
pretty much
statement.
says that chief has.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask about the car. So if
There
this,
is no car.
okay, so how's he going, this officer's going to have to go to football games, basketball
They'll
games?
provide transportation.
Yeah, they specifically said they didn't want a car included in the cost, and so, they'll.
Okay, then I'm going to make dang sure I never see that car go.
No, it's not going.
But I also don't read this as saying that we're going to cover football games.
There will be occasions where there will be overtime, and it'll be within the scope of our policies here at the city. We already know the hours that they want the SRO to work is gonna be involved about 2.5 hours of overtime per week. It's just something that I'm gonna have to keep under control and manage, just like I've done for the police department.
Okay, who's paying that overtime?
It's not necessarily paid overtime. It could be time on the books. It's stuff that we're going to have to maintain control of.
Well, we
And
need
we
to know
will.
how that's going to be maintained and controlled.
Well,
Don't we?
it's gonna be maintained and controlled, just like I maintain and control the police department's overtime right now. Which,
I think what you're trying to say, you just want to make sure we don't get runaway.
I don't want to be taken advantage of by Mr. Willis, because
not.
that man will, I'm sorry, and I know it's on public record, but I don't trust him when it comes to money. Because anytime he asks for anything at that school that pertains to him, they've come up with the money for it. So if they're gonna have overtime and stuff, I'm not making our citizens that pay for our law enforcement to have to pay for that
This is the point that
extra.
I made to them. The vast majority of the students at that school come from outside the city of Granger.
Dang right they do.
Okay, if at any point I feel like we need to adjust this budgetary thing to cover some other stuff, trust me, I will go to the school board and make the necessary requests.
Because he gets money. He gets from the state money for these transfer students, and it's good money.
No, I understand that. And I see where you're coming from. You don't
I
want
don't want
runaway.
extra expense coming from us.
That makes sense.
The hours he's talking about, which are compensated, when they have the 2-month span, the officer should be able to use that time as time off.
During those 2 months.
I'm
Okay.
not sure you can, it gets
I mean,
real
It
questionable in that
is,
area.
but you
But
actually.
Mr. Willis
accumulate-
sat in here and talked about the fact, because I asked him a direct question about this. About whether this school resource officer would be used for football games or if it was going to be directly for school activities during normal hours. That's my only hangup. I mean, this is great for the city. If it cost us a little bit more, I'm really good with that, because I think it has a lot of benefits for our
I just
police
know
department.
we're into year one of a program
I know.
that we're all exploring for the first time.
But
My issue is I'm going to have to monitor what's going on over there. I'm gonna have to do my administrative due diligence in order to protect the city from liabilities that we can't afford. And if I see that they're going to be skyrocketing overtime, then I'm gonna go back to the school board and say, you need to pay more.
Well, and I think, I'm gonna go back to where I was going with this is, I think the city gets a lot of benefits by our police department being in our school, no matter where those students are coming from. Because it builds goodwill when these kids hopefully get into high school of knowing Tommy or Chief or any of our police officers. It really helps our city, in my opinion. Okay. For extracurricular activities, whether it's football games, tennis matches, district events and things like that. To me, those are above and beyond what the scope of this really is. And I say that because they have a responsibility for events with a high population to create a safe environment, which is typically done with after-hours police officers, whether that is done by them hiring on the side for the use of the vehicle and the police officer to go on his time, or if it's through county or some other event. That's typically, from my understanding, how those types of events work. Would that be a correct statement in a general statewide
Yeah.
status?
We're probably gonna have to revisit the football deal closer to football season. I need to see how it's running, but I wanna make something really, really clear here to y'all. My whole issue with the school district has been us, and when I say us, the city of Granger retaining control over the type of police officers we have running around here in Granger. Everybody remembers their quote-unquote school police department chief of police that they had running. That man's employment history would not qualify him to be a member of the Granger Police Department. And he left pretty quick after I started here because I wasn't putting up with his nonsense. And it was nonsense.
Oh, the resource officer that they had?
Doug Montgomery was the school district chief of police when I came here. He was walking around with one of our radios that we were paying for and came in my office and proceeded to tell me that he was in charge of my people when they were over there on their school campus or if they went on any school event. And when he told me that, I reached across the table and took the radio out of his hand and told him, since I'm paying for this, I'll just go ahead and take it back right now. You don't need it. I said, number two, your school district is inside of my city. You're working here at my suffrage, not the other way. And I told him, I said, I'll be calling your superintendent. He left. I called Randy Willis. About 2 months after that, he was gone.
So, I'm good with dollars and cents.
Something also to consider is, there's quite a few holidays, during the school year. I mean, you've got three days to a week for Thanksgiving, you've got 2 to 3 weeks for Christmas, you've got Labor Day, Columbus Day. They take a lot of, spring break. So, I mean, there are a lot of vacations.
We're using that guy when they're closed for business. I mean, that's it.
And it's a 1-year term, the initial.
Exactly.
Right, so if we
So y'all can renegotiate.
bleed after a year, you gone. I mean, just.
My plan was to look at this thing after the first 6 months and see how we were doing cost-wise. If we need to go up, that's why it's a 1-year contract. And probably we're gonna have to go up anyway next year because the next fiscal year, not the one we're fixing to work on, 18, 19, 19, 20, there's gonna have to be a COLA in there. Everybody knows what a COLA is, cost of living raise.
Yeah, don't get.
Cost of living adjustment. And that's usually 2 to 3%. We don't do it every year here, and y'all kind of know how I felt about raises. I didn't, last time we had raises around here, I wasn't beating my own drum to get a raise. I relied on y'all to make that decision. The only person I was getting a raise for was my employee.
Okay, I've got one more question, because I watched the news a while ago. All these shootings that have happened, now all of a sudden there's lawsuit after people.
Right.
After the hotel, or after the parents, or the school, or something. Is there anything in here that says, if there was to be one, and pray to God we never do, but if there was one and kids got killed, can they come back and try to sue the
Number
city?
7.
Item 7, hold harmless agreement. We have sovereign immunity. If our officer acts in good faith and follows state law, the city of Granger has sovereign immunity. No decision made by a school principal or administrator shall affect that. That's why I incorporated the hold harmless agreement into it.
Okay, good.
They can still try to say.
No, that's fine. So we're covered.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, you make a good point. And so.
because, I mean, that's all you're seeing on TV now. Everybody's suing. Sue happy.
The only place where I know that we've got active lawsuits going on right now besides, what was the one up north where all the school kids were killed by the mentally deranged kid with the AR-15? Parkland, Florida has had some lawsuits filed because of the fact that the SRO, who was a sheriff's deputy, apparently didn't respond in an appropriate fashion. I can tell you right now, if we have an active shooter at this school, Tommy and I are going in. We're not waiting for anybody. We're not going to wait for backup. We're not going to wait for the county to get here. We're not going to wait for Precinct 4 Constable's office to get here. We're going in with what we have at hand. The goal and purpose of that, all the training, Tommy's been to alert training, I've been to alert training. All the training says the faster you get in there and stop the intruder, it lessens the damage, okay? That's important for y'all to know. The school district has 2 training sessions that are going to be taught on August 17th. And probably we're all going to attend them.
The school has it?
Yeah, the school is paying for it. It's going to be held at the school. It's before they start their school year. All of their staff, it's being taught by somebody from the sheriff's office who has expertise in this area. We're going to attend it because it's applicable to other things too.
Anywhere. Okay.
All right. Anything else? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement between Granger Independent School District and the City of Granger for the provision of a school resource officer.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
I abstain.
Oh, you didn't
I
say.
abstain.
All right. So we have 4, and 1 abstain. And then, that's everybody. Oh, and then all opposed by the same, I'll just ask. Seeing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Have you had any applicants?
I'm sorry?
Have you had any applicants?
I need to make,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I need to make an amendment to that motion. I apologize. How do I do this? I make an amendment to the motion, to change
You can
the
just say,
dollar figure.
amending the motion and then just remake it.
Ready to get that?
If that's easier, right?
Yeah, 665.
Sorry, I apologize, y'all. I'm in the motion to include the change of dollar amount to $50,665.92 instead of $50,666.92.
Thank you.
Can you second that one again?
All right.
Second.
All in favor? All right. We have 4, and 1 abstain.
And the mayor can sign a contract, correct?
It's approved.
Okay.
All right, we're good. Motion carries. All right, discuss, consider approval of minutes for July 9th, 2018, regular city council meeting. Did anybody see any things on there?
Nothing glaring.
I will say I like the way that's done, thank you. It's pretty. I definitely do like that. All right.
Okay, I move on new business, item 5, section 5, item number 4, that we approve the minutes for the July 9th, 2018 regular city council meeting.
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right, all opposed by the same, seeing none, motion carries.
Can I ask? I really do like the written minutes.
You like them too?
I do too.
We were never asked about videotaping. It just kind of appeared in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Do we actually have to do this?
I like
No, to answer the question, no. Legally, there's nothing to say that we have to do it. I do believe, however, the public likes it. The reason is they're able to watch this, and I mean, if you see, people do watch it. And so, and the larger cities, most of them have gone to this, and at some point we'll have to anyways. But,
Just thought I'd ask.
so, no, I understand. And so,
I like both, and here's the reason on it. There's one thing about looking up online, seeing the agenda in a quick abbreviated form of what happened. But this doesn't tell me any of the discussion. Like tonight, when we passed the fee schedule, we're in the weeds again. The fee schedule. None of that discussion is going to be reflected in the minutes, talking about, we've got to come back and relook at these. None of that would be reflected in the minutes, where if you watched a video recording, you can see some of that discussion about the pools, you can see the discussion about the cemetery plots, the solicitation. You kind of get a full view of it if you want to invest the time in the city to hopefully help people understand what's going on in the city. That's only my personal opinion on it. I think I like both.
it lets the public know that, in my opinion, we have a good council. Because they know.
And pretty much we're not hiding anything.
Correct. That they know you're asking good questions about overtime and things of that nature. It definitely is very transparent.
So we have it working properly now?
Well, we believe so. We've had some issues with it.
I forgot to have Father Hilario come over and bless it with holy water tonight. I mean, it's.
Well, because I mean, you see the comments on Facebook and they're complaining they can't hear it and then they can't see this.
We spent some money and had a technician come over the last meeting.
The last council meeting was very, very clear. You could hear everything.
It went through good.
Exceptional.
Okay.
Yeah.
The video was good.
Because I don't.
Boy, I checked them. Yeah.
Well, we have some things that we need to, we have some issues with the website we're working on. But there is still, we still have a long ways to go on improving some things.
Okay.
So,
By the way, whoever worked on the video and audio, thank y'all. I don't know who was responsible.
Well, that was me and Catherine and a tech guy that originally set this equipment up, and he had to come over here and show us what we weren't doing right. Hopefully, we've worked those bugs out. We'll know tomorrow.
Would you tell Catherine thank you?
Yes, I will.
Can you bleep cuss words?
Yeah.
Ability?
Yes, but you don't say them.
Cannot self-monitor myself, so.
All right.
so moving on, executive session, I don't think we have a reason. So did we just put that on there in case? Consult with our attorney, we don't have a reason. And so, if y'all would like, I guess we can go ahead and just, if council has any comments or anything, we'll just dismiss the, budget workshops.
Are we not doing anything with the budget?
Well, we'll go out of, this is a council meeting, so we're gonna go out of that into the budget workshop. So, do we adjourn from that? We just keep on going?
Right here.
All right, then let's go on and go to the budget workshop.
We're just going to our last line item of the budget meeting.
And if you go back here past the deal, we are into our budget proposal, 621-18.
Okay, y'all can either have me stand up in front of you while we go over mine, or I can sit here.
That's quite all right.
You have a document that I prepared in front of you, and it shows the line items that we used in the FY 17-18 and what y'all approved for those line items. Now, that being said, if you go to FY 18-19, you'll see that there are some additional items with numbers there. So everywhere you see a 0 or a bolded, this darker line, there's going to be some type of change there. Okay? So what I want to do is, first of all, point out the difference between this current fiscal year and next fiscal year is we're adding a staff position that's paid for by the school. So that affects salaries, Social Security, Medicare, TWC payable, TMRS payable, TML employee insurance payable, TML workers' comp payable. It also affects our training and training lodging needs, our professional dues, and I'm going to have to add a cell phone for that officer. And the reason why, just like all police officers at this city, we're on call 24/7. I'm gonna discuss that on call 24/7 with y'all here in just a minute, so please don't let me forget. Plus, that officer is gonna have some equipment purchased for him and some new uniforms. So that's gonna change 5305 and 5306 uniforms and officer equipment. Now, down at the very bottom, and also there is a correction on 5701, which was the 2018 patrol vehicle purchase. Somehow or other, and I don't know how this happened, I submitted $8,172 last year, but somehow that line item was still $10,020. So I cut it back to the 8172, which is the payment for the truck outside. Down on the bottom, you'll see 5707 3 times. Those are capital outlays. Okay, capital outlays are anything that's over $500. So we want to purchase 2 new tasers because we've got 2 old tasers, model X26. Those are not currently supported by Taser International anymore, or Axion as they prefer to be called now. They are the sole provider of that equipment. I want to buy 2. One for the new officer and one for Tommy. I have one. And we'll just continue to use the other ones. Will be used by the reserves until they no longer function, and we'll get rid of them. Body camera purchase, I want to purchase 2 new body cameras. One for the new officer and one as a backup, because these things are like any device. They have a NiCad battery in them, and after a period of time, that NiCad battery is not going to charge anymore. So I want to get in the habit of replacing these things. This is the 3rd year we've had this equipment, so I need to start working towards replacement. I wish these companies had learned to make these battery packs interchangeable. That would be really nice. But they talk about, well, there's a problem with that because if you break the seal on the case, then you get moisture in it and it might malfunction, so on and so forth. So, whatever. The last I would like to have item would be a carport to cover the 2 patrol vehicles, because quite frankly, we are 1 hailstorm away from destroying both of those vehicles. Those are large capital outlays for the city. $1,500 and I can have a 2-car carport out there anchored into our concrete, protecting those vehicles, and make sure that we don't have something happen to them during the nighttime or whenever on a hailstorm or something. Those 3 items there, 5707, the tasers, the body cameras, and the carport, I'd like to have those items. Y'all can decide how much you want to buy off on each one.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
Yes, sir.
The cameras,
Yes, sir.
are you going to need new software for them, or does it work with the software? Does the software update every year?
The software automatically updates. It's called firmware, and they send their updates to our computers, and it automatically goes into the camera. So we're already on version 3 of their firmware.
So we don't have to worry about the software?
No, they usually do it once a year, and we don't have to pay for it. It's part of the initial purchase agreement.
I like your theory about taking care of our vehicles and protecting from a hailstorm. My issue with it is I don't want a carport downtown. It's the look of it.
It's over there behind the building. It's not going to be visible from the street.
If I'm at the Red and White, I can see it, or at the Cotton Club. That's my only comment. I agree with it.
In our historic district.
We need to protect it, but if a private business came into this
They
city
wanna do it.
and they wanted to put a carport there, I'd vote against it in a heartbeat. Because I wouldn't want everybody visiting our red and white or our cotton club seeing that downtown and thinking that's how we're gonna do it for business. This is me. This is strictly my viewpoint on things. If I'm gonna treat a private business that way, I'd probably, that's my only thought pattern on it. I don't know if we can make it look more aesthetically pleasing.
Like an awning of some sort.
Jill Cox has portable
I
ones
think
right
we can
there,
make it
right by
look
the
more
park. Nobody said
Of
that.
our facial.
But she's also one street over from,
But she's noticeable from the Cox Club. You can see. You can
No, I know what you're saying.
see it.
But
I mean,
we don't have an ordinance, I guess, it being in the historic district, I see where you're coming from.
I
Because
mean, I agree, but, I mean, I voted against this guy over here that put all roofs on his property.
Yeah. we're-
I mean, that's just me.
yeah, no, and we've
I
been
mean,
having
I
an issue.
understand your point of view.
We can-
I'm thinking from the mere aspect that, first of all, that building that we're in, the City Hall Annex,
It's still there.
has a facade that's been added to it that is not historic. I mean, so we're already violating the historic
I know, but
of the building
once
itself.
you give one variance, you keep giving variances and variances.
Correct.
And you keep making the problem bigger and
We
bigger.
try to, we need to improve, not go the other way.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I really do get the whole, we
Covering
need
it.
to take care of our police vehicles. I just, not sure I like the carport there.
We could probably make it look better with the Main Street program. I'm sure they've got ideas for canopies that cover the vehicles.
Yeah.
That it would be in our variance type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I work nights, I've been here when there's hailstorms, and
There's
what
no way.
happens is I'm running around parking things under.
The laundromat, oh.
Things under, Mike's
That-
shed over there.
We need something
Until,
That was one of the reasons why I struggled to get all those equipment bays. When Saber left and Jim left, why I struggled to get those equipment bays cleaned out and get those trucks parked under those equipment bays. Instead of the equipment bays being a junk storage area, park the equipment under there and protect it from the elements.
Makes sense.
I mean, we don't really have anywhere else that we can do it.
We could look into, and I mean, you know, I
I
see
mean,
where you're.
I'm okay with y'all saying no on that item.
I'm not saying, I'm saying that we may want to look at other options.
A little
to make
higher
it-
expense and make it to where it looks aesthetically.
But then again, we're not through with
Well, I
budget
mean,
either, so that might be cut.
it's just like anything, if the other option, of course, is to make it look like the building and surrounding
Right.
area, then you're building in brick, and then your construction cost is gonna go upwards to about $10,000.
Well, one thing that they can do is that we can sink two metal poles against the structure on the backside, and they go up and they have an L like this, and then you put one of those mesh, you know what I'm talking about? They look modern, they look clean, they would fit into a historic district. Because that's what I have seen in, you know, I just came back from Key West, and they had something very similar, the city did, and it fit the historic buildings from the 1800s very nicely. It matched the colors, because it fit in, but it was more of a sunblock, but they're designed to stop.
I mean, right behind the city park, you got a pile of tires from the tire shop. I mean,
But part of that's grandfather too.
I understand.
It's not new
And the
construction.
city and our buildings are not subject to the historical.
True, but the thing is then you hear, well, if the city can do it, why can't I? And you hear it every day.
And if I'm gonna hold a business to a standard,
Yeah.
why would I cost a business money if I'm not willing to live up to the same standard?
I'm just throwing this out there.
I mean,
y'all,
you're supposed to block
the good
the
thing,
head.
I agree.
the good thing about this is y'all are the ones that have to decide.
We're just now starting budget process. Is it possible to look for some other items and also bring this back with other options that you can look at, chief?
what kind of structure are y'all thinking about building back there to park 2 police cars under? Because the only thing that I know that is gonna be cost effective for us would be some type of carport, okay? I look around and I see carports all over town. I don't think that it's gonna cause that much problem for us. And I think because of the way the structure would be set back behind the building, it would not be that noticeable, nor would it detract from the surrounding value of the historic district.
We could make it taller and make it have the same type frontage as the front of the street. It would not be that much additional funds, but we could actually match the signage canopies that they got on the front of the buildings. Would that be?
And like you said, the Main Street program, would that be something we could?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think.
I don't know,
if we get into
I don't
the-
have Catherine here to answer that question. I don't know if the Main Street program is gonna pay the city of Granger
Well, they
to
don't
build
pay.
what basically is gonna be either a garage or a carport.
And part of the theory from.
What I'm saying is we can tie it in by having it look like the canopies. And it would
I'm
stay
good
in
with
with
doing
the old.
some,
It would just
something
be a
that'll
little
kind
bit
of
more
make it
fun.
blend
Not
in.
much more, we can do that.
I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you're proposing, and I mean, I would be open to you showing me something.
I'm not proposing anything, I haven't looked at this, the first time I've seen it.
I can show you.
You brought ideas, I'm throwing ideas.
I know.
I can show you exactly what we need to do to tie.
Like I said before, these things down here on the bottom, these are wish list things, and y'all get to decide, what gets priority. We'd love to think. One thing I do want to point out, if you look at the actual budget without all the SRO items, it's only a 1.017% increase over this current budget. That's what I want to point out. I didn't go out here trying to break the bank or anything else. It's
At first sight, it scares you a little bit, but once you break it out.
that's why when you look at that 190 versus the 137, that's, that's not that much more than what we're currently paying.
It would be, it's classier.
You found something?
Now, the cost on that, I guarantee you, is not $1,500.
No.
What else do? I screwed it up.
We can.
Bring your phone up.
No, that's all right, that's the same thing.
I think we can revisit it and get what they want. Not too much more expensive.
I don't care. I'm just worried about us
Sides on it a little bit.
one night having a hailstorm and losing both police cars for an extended period of time while the insurance, our TML insurance pays for the repairs. Tommy and I are gonna look pretty stupid on bicycles here in town, that's all I'm saying.
Great
As
shape.
long as you don't
Hate
put
to
yours
tell you, it's
on.
gonna be
I'll let you borrow
Well,
mine.
you haven't seen my legs, so.
I didn't want to say that.
So, I think at this point, we can come back and we've got, part of our problem is we don't really know where we stand right now. And so, before I say we rule any of this stuff out, I say leave it in there for now, maybe do a little more research. Like Hugh said, we're at the beginning of this is our first meeting. Yeah, we're at the very first, so look at it and see what we got here, and we can come back and talk about this at a later date.
Does anybody else have any other questions about anything else? Oh, and I did want to discuss something.
Yeah, you said something.
The police department has never had an overtime budget that I'm aware of, and I've gone back as far as I could go. I'm like Rachel, I looked at what they were spending back during base when they had more officers here, and apparently we've never had an overtime budget. If you look at our current city policy guidance, it says that you can accumulate no more than 40 hours of compensatory time, and anything past that, you've got to pay. My problem with that is pay it from where?
Yeah,
From whose pocket or whose budget is it gonna be paid from? Okay?
I thought we had a
Now,
lose it clause.
you can't regulate a police department the same way you regulate your administrative staff and your public works staff, because here's what's happening. 10 minutes before I get off, somebody's beating his wife over here to death with a baseball bat. And I go over there and arrest him. It's a minimum of 6 hours, okay, to get this guy booked, charged, do the reports. Okay? That times however many, and y'all know how frugal I run our overtime around here. For example, like today, I didn't stay at work. I went home for a couple hours before I came to this meeting. And the reason for that is, I'm not gonna sit around here and do nothing and pile on more hours on top of what I already had. I keep my hours down because those are unencumbered liabilities for the city. And if we don't have a line item to pay overtime, then I don't know where the money's gonna come from when y'all decide to start following these policies as they're written. That's number
No,
one.
there's some things that need to be changed with our policies and procedures. And the overtime and the comp time needs to be revisited, because I think our current setup is not working.
Well, let me tell you the other thing, and I'm just using this as an example, I'm not using it as a threat. Frank's guys rotate on-call status, and they receive pay for that on-call status. So they're sitting at home waiting for a phone call. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 4 years, your chief of police has been on call, except when he's been on vacation. I take calls at night, early morning hours, weekdays and weekends. My question is, we don't have a policy for the police department to be on call. We're on call all the time, period, end of story. We're not asking for extra money. We're not getting the same, on-call pay that Frank's guys are getting. And I understand that. That's part of what we signed up for.
That's in
The point I'm trying to say is our policies and our practices don't match each other, number one. And number two, y'all are not providing a source of revenue to pay for these things. And we need to do that in this budget.
Who pays for on-call all weekend minus
We,
when we get a call?
I don't know.
I don't get it. But an employee in the department gets 8 hours regular pay per week to be on call at any given time, all night, throughout the week and the weekend. So you're paying out close to $7,500 that we don't have a line item covering, because that actually is overtime.
Okay, so that's a little different than the full-time they're on call.
Right,
So I'm gonna ask another question on that.
that goes into my budget.
Yeah, I'll wait till I get to this.
I mean, that goes into correcting my budget.
See, my theory behind this is, ladies and gentlemen, is this. If any of y'all decided to call me at 2:30 in the morning this morning, and I didn't answer my phone, you'd be a little upset, wouldn't you? Because obviously you'd be calling me about a concern that you had. Correct?
Oh, you at 2:30 in the morning, I thought about be dialing 911.
Well, my point is this. This is part of what I signed up for, and I can tell you this right now, and Frank is going to disagree with me, but I'm going to say it anyway, and I've said it before. I don't know of too many cities that have department heads who get comp time and vacation time and overtime pay and sick time pay. Those are salaried exempt positions, and You just pay me my salary,
Except it's not salary.
okay? That's the way other places work this. The sheriff of Williamson County has a salary, he's an elected official.
So, we're getting into the weeds. This has to do with budget for other
Yeah.
departments.
That's a whole nother-
Because I don't wanna be here till midnight.
No, I don't either.
No offense, I'm not trying to be rude to you. Those are policy issues that ought to be dealt with. We're not discussing policy, we're dealing with budget. Probably ought to bring it up for decisions to be made on those too. I kinda like your budget. I mean, you're talking about $4,300 difference when you take in with, now, I don't know if 1,400's on officer equipment is gonna cover everything you're gonna need. Does that cover guns and?
No. Most of these guys come with their own guns. I'm gonna tell you something right now, we're not in the business of buying guns, or we're not gonna be.
So what that officer equipment covers, radio?
It's gonna cover his belt, his holster, his handcuffs, that kind of stuff.
A vest?
Uniforms, this is the kind of uniform that we're gonna be going to after October the 1st. That doesn't mean Tommy and I are gonna run out and buy, 10 of these, okay?
Linda had a question, does that include the vest?
Yeah, we're gonna have to buy this guy a vest.
Is that $1,400 gonna be enough to cover all the equipment for him?
Yes, sir. I priced it out.
You wanna have extra in case you need some extra?
No, the contingency fund
It's not
that,
enough?
the former city administrator took away from me this year, I reestablished it, so I've got $500 extra there. If I've got any overages, that's what contingencies are for unplanned events. If something is gonna cost me more and I need it, then that's where I'm gonna get it from.
Anybody have any questions?
I'm already looked at.
All right. Well, and we can always come back to this later, because if we're broke, I think, I know you and I and Monica were all there when we went through and slashed the budget. Y'all remember we were 400,000 upside down?
Yes, we did. We slashed a lot.
Your red pen's out.
Oh, man, we had the red crayons and we were going crazy.
It kind of surprised me when I came to work here, what I call disposable budget items. And I've been doing budgeting for over 20 years. Disposable budget items are everything that doesn't relate to salaries or people, okay? Personnel costs, that's all those items up on top of this thing here, all the way down to TML workers' comp. Okay, so your disposable budget items are below that. When I came to work here, disposable budget items were costing $58,000 a year. And I went, do what? And I asked Sabra where she got these figures from, and she goes, oh, I just copied it from the previous year.
That's when Mace was here.
So if you've been looking at my budgets over the last 4 years, okay, my disposable budget is down to about $41,000 a year now. That's a big difference.
Because we're early in the process, can we make one change to the proposed police?
Yes.
Instead of contingency of 500, can we put a 1% in there?
A 1% of what?
The total budget. And we may not keep it, just for the time being, because I think a 1% contingency is probably a decent contingency. If y'all run over nails.
1% of,
It's $1,900.
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but, I believe in budgetary control, and if you start packing money in contingency, you're just asking for somebody to
If you
go
don't
off.
want it,
There you go.
okay, leave it as is.
I think $500 for the police department is a sufficient amount. If y'all want to increase it, that's y'all's right.
Going with your
Hey,
need.
No, I think we're good.
Make it 500.
Moving on.
Move on to Public Works. Frank, if you don't mind, let's start with your budget. If you can start with number 1.
The cement pad, everybody on that page?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right now, all we got is dirt under our canopy. We have begun, since I started here, we're servicing our own vehicles. And in order to service them a little more safely, we can jack them up on a solid cement pad versus the dirt and maintain them with the jack stands like we need to work on them, to change the oil, to do all our filters and everything to comply with our vehicles. We hadn't been doing that. There was no true vehicle maintenance on any of our vehicles. I've been doing it, and like I said, we've been doing it on the rocks because that's all we got.
We're talking about the big building. where it's
Yeah, we've got
down.
that carport already existing.
Right.
Their equipment bays back there at White.
Yeah.
It's,
So if I can,
approximately 26.
you know where the door into the storage, where all the new records, have y'all seen that?
Uh-huh.
But
I
he's
was down there with
done all
Frank
the
and-
quoting and everything, and that's for a 6-inch
Basically,
thick pad.
just that one bay, not all of them, just that one right by the door.
It's a 6-inch pad with the rebar, them forming. It's, like I said, approximately 26 by 29, if I remember. I have
Oh,
the
so it's
exact
not doing
figure.
the whole thing, it's just
No,
like
no,
one
it's
bed?
just doing a section to have it, to be able to work on the vehicles correctly and safely. That's all it is.
and so there's,
So per square foot, about for a 26 by 29, you're talking about $9.35 a square foot. That's cheap.
Yeah, he's really good. He gave me a super dynamite
Yeah, I know
quote.
what concrete's running now.
it's expensive because of the building.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, because honestly, I thought it was gonna be more about 15 grand, and when I saw that, I was like, whoa. Because this, as I told Frank, I go, I want to get in the habit of bringing things to council, even if we don't do it. And the reason is this needs to be what I would call a long-term plan.
To me, that's a safety issue.
Yeah, it is. And it also is there's a money savings in it, because
What I'd like to do is
when he puts the
extend it.
floor jack in there right now,
And
it's
make it
road base,
longer so we
and
can
once you get a heavy
cover all
vehicle,
our
or especially a backhoe, it's just
Should have
sinking.
half of them.
And y'all
I
know,
have a husband
Would
that
that
works
be
on all that
another-
kind of stuff.
so
I know.
you know.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I had this in there, is because with conversations with Frank, he had mentioned it before, and I was like, you know what? Instead of us just talking about it, you and me, let's bring it before council. If they say no, and we don't know what our budget looks like, I'm
Right.
sorry about that, because we're working on it, but I wanted it in here.
Yeah, this is his
So-
wish list, that's fine.
I'm sorry, Frank, I took that from you,
That's
so you
fine.
can go on to number 2.
That's fine. We're starting to develop cracks in the slab roof over the pump house, and we are getting some seepage when we have the rains. So I'd like to get it repaired, and we don't really have enough budgeted funds for building repairs. So we're gonna kind of have to boost them up in order for me to make those repairs. Also, the soffits on all the wastewater buildings, the wood fronts of your eaves are rotted, and I'd like to get them repaired.
Put yours in.
You know, it's, as I said, the upkeep of the equipment and the buildings and even the property itself had not been done. There was never appropriate funding asked for to do it. I'm trying to remedy that so that I can bring everything up to standard like it needs to be. I realize it's costly. I built the storage building for $3,700. I can build an actual office for the utility department for $4,000 inside an existing storage building that we have over there by the water plant. I would like to do that, to make that our primary office, to where I can visit and talk with people, customers and contractors, and right now, we don't even actually have an office. What we have is legally an MCC room, which is not to be occupied. That is actually against the OSHA standards. No one is actually supposed to occupy that building at that wastewater plant. It's not designed for being in for any length of time. It's where we house the electrical buckets that are very dangerous and could blow at any time, depending on the situation. So you don't want people always in that facility. It's also actually a lab where we perform the tests that are required daily. So the reason why I want to build the office is to maintain our standard, to be up to code, to start doing what needs to be done for the city and for our facilities, and also at the same time to be ready for the expansion. Because if I put in a new racetrack, I will need additional space for the electrical components, which will completely take up that room. There will be no available real space in there. But trying to utilize the existing building and add our electrical components for the next additional track.
If I can ask a real quick question, how many of the council members have toured all of the buildings?
I haven't been at the water plant, but I've been at the sewer.
You've been at the sewer? Have you been, Monica, to any of them?
Next week.
Okay.
I'm glad you told me about that thing that it could blow up.
Well, I'll speak a little bit to it, because, you know, I'd been on council a long time, and until I was mayor, I had never been to, it was kind of eye-opening to me, because over by the gym, we have another building over there, and honestly, I didn't even know that was ours. And so I went in there, I was like, oh, and, you know, Frank showed it to me, and so I think it's helpful. It was very helpful. I'll just say it was very helpful to me to understand what we actually had. You know, yeah, if y'all wanted like a Saturday or something, I can get the keys from Frank and we could go look at them.
No more than two.
If we're gonna do that, you need to post.
Right.
That's right.
Quorum, correct. So, but we could do that, and, you know, maybe I could do 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday, something like that.
Or just post it 72 hours beforehand and say that it's a quorum, but there's no decisions being made.
You still have to do your roll call and this and that and take minutes. Even if you're going to meet somewhere over there.
Individually, any one of you are
Anytime I
welcome
see
at
you
any
there,
time.
Because you are actually dealing with city business, so.
You know, any one of you
There you
are,
go.
I mean, I have my liaison, but any
Okay.
one of you can come at any given time if you wish, and I will tour you around the
Never want to
plant.
bother you when
I just need a little notice and I'll.
It is nice to,
I'm out of town starting tomorrow, but next week.
because Frank, to be able to take me up there, Frank was able to run me down, you know, just to be able to stand inside the water tower and see the condition that pipe was in and the rust. It does a lot more for you to see it in
Opens your
person
eye.
than to look at a photo. And so, it's a little scary to see the rust on the pipe, so, I don't know, it impacted me, so, if anybody wants to, you know, talk to Frank, or, I can work with Frank and we can go up there and we can take care of it, so. Sorry, Frank, you can go ahead.
That's no problem. One of the things our department doesn't have that I would like to do, and that is uniforms. Also, at the same time, with the uniform service, I can be provided hand towels and toilet paper and the dispensers, which will cut down on the office supplies spending, because it'll be monitored and they'll be taking care of it.
I noticed that you have these prices here. Does that include monthly or bi-weekly charges?
I actually have the breakdowns.
Okay.
I do have the breakdowns that when we go further into budget, that I can show them. But this is actually, I really like Aramark. It's under 4,000, and they actually provide me with something that we do not have, and that is a properly stocked first aid kit that they stock every month, and make sure that we have eye wash and the stuff that we do need, because we are working around chemicals. We don't have any eye wash stations, which is something we need to get installed. Yes, we don't. There is no facility other than a water hose. That is what we have. As I said, I'm trying to bring us up to a good standard, but I know I can't hit you all at once with the things that I need to get. This would be a good start. We could get a standard uniform. Everyone would be dressed in the same color shirt, same uniforms, be identified with their tag. We would at the same time have shop rags, which we can use when we're cleaning up lines to get ready to glue or repair or whatever type of repairs we're doing. It will give us the paper towels. It will provide with the toilet paper. It will provide with the soap. They will even provide us with the sanitizer. And this is all rolled into the yearly expense. It's broke down. I do have the breakdown of it. I think it would be really beneficial for the city to have this.
How many sets of uniforms do you get with that?
You'll get 11 sets. We have it set up for 5 people at this time, which I can get the cost per adding a 6th person, which I'm thinking of.
Is that 11 per person?
Yes.
Okay.
That way they do them every week. They pick up a set, they wash them, they maintain a quality that, you know, we can start getting some pride instilled in our city instead of everybody just kind of running around in rags and tattered shirts and whatever because they've gotten old and faded and the pants, you know.
That's pants and shirts.
It is pants and shirt.
Your current uniform only covers shirts, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And
So-
these are being cleaned.
Currently, you're spending on uniform, you're spending about 17?
Yeah, roughly. I mean, it's kind of, our budget was kind of strange on that. That's another thing, just the line item wasn't put in there the way it should. But as I said, this covers a lot of the office supplies as well. And at the same time, we're going to OSHA code and maintaining our medical stuff that we do need to have.
I think it's a year and then it's a monthly.
So I'm trying to,
That 3,900, is that per year or?
yeah, that's per year.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a yearly figure. It's very good. It, like I said, for the office supplies alone that we can cut. And when I get the service established, I can actually move them over to maintain the restrooms in City Hall to where they can just add those 2 items to keep you in the paper, to keep you in your toilet, you know, all the things that you need. It is something that's worth looking into.
And so that would essentially eliminate us potentially going to Sam's all the time.
It will cut the Sam's traveling except for the water. The quality is decent enough, so I'm just gonna have to live with things sometimes.
With women don't want it.
Right. Well, the thing is, I guess what Frank is also saying is, I mean, sometimes, I mean, let's say you buy a 40-pack of toilet paper and 10 of them disappear. Well, this is tracked.
That's true.
So, but I don't know. I don't even know if that's happening, but just.
Well, this is a way to maintain an absolute line item expense.
Right.
Instead of us having floating numbers that we can't control. This is more control.
Do the uniforms include name?
Yes, they are tagged with identification of City of Granger and the individual's name. That it's, like I said, I'm trying to bring up the standard and also that this way the citizens get used to recognizing a utility employee instead of who's that guy walking around in my backyard?
Yeah.
Because some of the meters are in the backyards. And we do physically have to go into their backyard to get to those meters at times. Yeah, it's not something I like, but it is something that has happened on several of the homes. Our actual utility is in their fenced yard.
Well, I guess for me, I kind of like the idea that, I mean, again, I have to say, we'll wait until we get through budget, but I think for now, I think if the error, I like the error mark.
We've been experiencing problems with the computer on the software to get our actual budget up, and that's why we haven't had it on the budget line items.
Okay.
That's why I did it separate. we're trying to line that out. We're hoping by next budget meeting we should.
How
And,
many employees do you have?
I have 4 employees and myself.
Does that include utility clerk?
Well, it doesn't include Janine, because Janine's separate and she wouldn't want a uniform anyway.
Janine is pretty much,
I assure you she would not want a uniform.
her position is paid for by
Is under them.
but she actually works
That's
for
the reason I was-
administration.
It's kind of weird. You know, it's paid out of my funds, but she's in the office. And I assure you she would not want a uniform.
We could make sure hers is pink and y'all's is blue.
So,
Or the opposite.
But technically, yeah, we've got 4 people out and about, and myself.
Okay.
So,
All right, if you look at it, and this isn't a fair way to compare, but if you compare police to utility, the 3,900 isn't a bad difference when you're talking about the number of uniforms and people on duty.
well, police uniforms cost more, but, no, I see what you're saying.
Hopefully they don't get as dirty as.
Yeah.
Right.
Depends on the day.
Because if y'all are getting that dirty, we got a
We
problem.
try not to get them that dirty, but sometimes.
Y'all get a sweat.
As the mayor can testify, sometimes what we want to do and what happens don't work out.
This
that
is
the
true.
truth. That is the truth.
Number 5, I see you've got another utility truck on here. We bought one last year. And Frank helped me out. What did we spend on that one last year? We got a good smoking deal on it.
Yeah, it was 15.
15,000.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great vehicle. Even for the mileage it had on it, I mean, it was solid, it was tight. We drove it,
Yeah, it's a good looking truck. And it's 4x4. It's the only 4x4 we have in the city. So,
and trust me, we have had needs for 4x4 vehicles.
Yeah, it's a real good truck.
a roller? Yes.
That's what I thought it was. It's nice.
The thing with the big steel?
Yeah,
You know, I do not want
I've
to get
been,
in front of it ever.
Well-
every time I go out Highway 29 past Liberty Hill, I look over at the guy's yard where we bought that truck from, because he gets them at auctions.
Yeah, he gets
And
them cheap.
I'm keeping my eyes out for one just like what Frank got the last time.
That was a good truck. So, the roller, what type of roller is this like, if you?
It's a driving roller. It's designed to where, it's not super heavy. I'm looking for a lighter one that I can use, because the problem is if we get someone in here with a heavy one, it starts breaking our AC lines. So
Okay.
you have to have a lighter one in order to, one of my main concerns is repairing Mustang. I don't know if you've ever driven on that road, but it's horrifying, and I need to put about probably 8 loads of road base on it and water it down and try to pack and get a nice road service again. Needless to say, yeah, it will be road based, but it will be a lot better than beating you up and throwing you out of your vehicle.
It'd be similar when we did those improvements at the new bridge project. What used to be a rutted dirt track, which was an extension of, and I can't remember what road it is now, but it was an extension of one of our city roads. There was nothing but a rutted dirt track in between Pecan and Oak.
Donahoe, it's actually part of
Donahoe. What the contractor did, and they did it on their own, we didn't really ask them to do it, they just decided to do it for us. They went in there and they scraped it, and they put some road base in there for us.
Actually, we did that, they rolled it.
Yeah.
They rolled it for us. They were there, so they went ahead and ran their
And I
roll
mean,
over it for us.
you go over and look at it now, it looks like a daggum street again, instead of a rutted.
But I widened that one.
You're talking about more like a 4-foot roller versus like one of those 6-foot.
Yeah, I want.
One of the smaller, narrow ones that you can
Yes,
get in.
lighter, easier to maintain,
And make patching our roads better.
right? It's
you know-
also, whenever we patch, we can run over the asphalt and pack it in better.
There's no cost. Do you have a, and I know we're not holding to it, because I think you said you were
There's
gonna
just
try
an
to.
estimate cost, because I hadn't found one that I liked yet, plus the fact that with on auction, I cannot put a stable number. It's gonna be a floating, everything's gonna float until I actually can lock it in. Well, I'm saying about 25,000 on a roller. That's the estimate.
Yes.
Same thing with the mini excavators. They range everywhere. They go crazy. I mean, they are expensive, but there are areas that we truly do need one. When we're fixing lines up in people's front yards, they just see that backhoe and automatically you have vicious and unhappy people.
All right, is everybody familiar with what a mini excavator is?
Yes, sir.
Explain it anyway.
It's, well, the excavators are those ones with tracks on them and it has a big backhoe on it. Well, the mini ones, they have a little rubber, it'll probably be better for me just to show you a picture.
They're mini, if you were there when they did the lines for the water plant, that's what they had. And it's just it's a little on track, looks like a backhoe, but it's got tracks and it can go on the trailer.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
I have pictures if you guys decide to get interested in it or not. It's just one of my.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask this question. Do we have areas that a backhoe will not get to?
Yes.
Where?
One of the main areas is our actual water plant right now without taking the fence down.
Does the fence on the property line or does it need to be moved?
The fence is variable. Right now, remember, we have the cotton gin on the other side, so technically we would not want to move it. Technically we would not want to move it because it would interfere with the operation.
Now, I'll tell you, I asked Frank to put this on here because the reason this came up is there was when we did this deal over here, there was a repair that was made for the bridge. They couldn't get into the alleyway because the backhoe wouldn't fit. Anywhere on Main Street, the backhoes won't be able to get in there.
There's several areas that are very tight, and also the fact of the ones that are in the backyards.
And so, I guess where I'm going with that is I asked Frank to put the wish list on here. There's a lot of stuff on here, and we're not gonna be able to do it all, but I want council to, does that make sense?
I'm more inclined towards the roller and fixing our backhoes.
Fixing the backhoes
Fixing
is
backhoes
a
is
priority
high
one.
priority. It's kind of like a shredder that had holes in the decking that should never have been used, that our guys were using and scared me to death.
Well,
Put it mildly. I like the wish list, but this isn't to me, the mini excavator does not reach as high priority as some of the others. Our streets are high visibility, they affect all of our utility vehicles, they affect our police department, they affect our citizens. So a roller and try to clean up our streets, it improves what people see when they come to the town. I know the mini excavator makes your job easier. But again, this is kind of in my opinion, it's kind of
We are throwing items out, whatever you guys approve is fine. I'm just letting you know the options and why we could use them.
I've been impressed with what the utility department is doing right now with asphalt that they're doing with the backhoe. What a roller would fix so many different issues, especially if we had to dig out a hole with the backhoe. They can roll it, fix it, and then put in new, and they get it.
Right, now the roller would be
The way it
nice.
should be.
So,
What I would be doing essentially is modifying some of my equipment that we've already bought. Our sewer machine, I will put a spray bar on and I will utilize it to spray the road. That way I can pack it properly with the roller. I know how to build roads. I can do it economically. And that's what I want to try to do, to repair the real bad areas and to try to get our overall road quality up, which we do need. We all know that. When I can do this and I can get Mustang done, then I'll go to the areas that have now what we call the W road. Due to our trash truck putting the ruts so deep that they look like a W.
Sure do.
We could start filling in with road base and then put an asphalt coating. This is very costly. To take the road completely up and redo it is not cost effective for us. We're talking 50,000, a half a block.
Yeah, but we've got to fix what's
And
underneath.
it has to be engineered and stuff
Yes,
like that.
exactly. This is what I'm saying. As we go, where we get our line prepared, we can essentially prep everything to where we can get an asphalt dropped on. And we can cut all the costs significantly in getting these repairs underway. There's some roads here that people, I assure you, you would be amazed at what they look like, and no one has complained. No one. I would like to send them a letter, because how they put up with that road, I just don't know. They are horrible,
So
and I'm aware that they are.
Can I ask you a question about your budget?
Yeah.
And you haven't gotten to it yet. If we don't go with number 9, how much use is a roller gonna get?
Oh, I still am gonna use it.
Okay. So even if we don't get an additional employee, we're not gonna have a piece of equipment that isn't being used to pay for that expenditure.
That roller will be used no matter what, because like I said, we're looking at a possible new addition. They are really gonna be focused on that road to the schools. That is something that we need to get repaired. Somehow, some way. That addition is right there. If it does go through, it's gonna be families that got kids. They're gonna drive it once and we'll never hear the end of it.
Well,
I mean, that's just,
but part of that's negotiation. But part of that's negotiation, because we can come back and tell them, we're not through with all this negotiating with the subdivision.
well, I
Part of it
agree.
is at the end of the term, they have to fix it back from the road construction. There's things we can negotiate on
I
that.
don't know if they're ever gonna go over to Mustang and fix.
Well, no, but alligator.
Well, what I'm saying is,
There's things we can negotiate. Hey, I mean, they're
yeah,
gonna put a
if
lot
they
of
can
traffic
go
on alligator.
if they can go in, yeah, partially on Alligator, that's up to the division and
But
all them.
I'm just worried about equipment sitting, that's the reason I
The
asked.
equipment,
Last year's.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get to it.
All of this is.
That's what I thought.
You see this right here?
Yeah, so I was wondering how to reference.
And so, if y'all want, let's keep on moving on, because we got a lot to get to back here. And so, trailer and,
the
mini-
trailer would follow with the excavator. We don't have to have it unless we do have an excavator, because they have tracks that you don't drive on asphalt. So you have to have a trailer to pull.
None of our trailers work.
No, they're not heavy duty enough. This has gotta be,
and that, I understand the
yeah,
reason.
it's
that-
gotta be a heavy duty trailer, and this is actually a killer price on a brand new trailer.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So-
Moving on to the additional employee,
That would be, again, if these parks go through, we're talking considerably more mowing. Right now, I only have a part-time mower, and he does spend the majority of his time at the cemetery. That's his majority of his time is at the cemetery.
What is that hourly rate that you figured for that? The
Excuse me?
30,000? Is that including like some benefits or anything?
That will include the benefits and the
What's the
pay.
hourly rate that you figured on this?
$12.50.
$12.50, okay.
But that will include all the benefits, that should include the benefits and,
Insurance.
yeah. But we are looking at getting more, and if we keep doing this increase, then my employees run thin, because today, I'm not a taskmaster, and I am not going to ask my employees to stay out there a full 8 hours mowing or weed eating. It was in excess of 100 degrees. I cannot do that. That just can't be. So we've lost a day of actual mowing. It was just extremely too hot. And I can't send them out to do that. That's just, I have to be responsible enough for my employees to look at the safety as well as what they get done. So, we're losing time. But my water and my sewer department do the mowing, they do the roads. We actually are not separated. It's kind of, in our budget, we do have all these different categories, but we don't actually have that separation.
If you don't need anything from me, text me.
Okay, thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
The fire hydrant inspection and maintenance.
This I insist on.
I'm going to talk on this before you get into this, and I apologize. Okay, so I've been on council, this is my second term. When I got over the fire department, Anthony Morehouse was the chief, and I started asking him for this. I've asked James Servinka for a price on this. I've asked other members of the fire department for a price on this. This is important for a citywide issue, because there's, in my opinion, I'm sorry, I'm gonna re-say this, I'm sorry for taking over on this line.
That's okay.
There's a couple issues. If the fire department goes out and hooks up to a fire hydrant, and they start dragging line off to go to a house, and they get that line on the ground, and then they go to charge it once they've hooked up to the truck, they've now got 200 foot of line on the ground that does them absolutely no good. And they have lost a lot of time trying to drag 5-inch hose. If you've never dragged a 5-inch hose, go try it. It bites. And if you have to drag the other direction down the street, so the time on that water that you could have had may be the difference between a house burning and a house surviving. Once it's in the attic, it's done. The other aspect of this is if we start going out and we start rating our hydrants, we start inspecting them, we start doing maintenance on them, it plays into a much bigger thing of ISO rating for the city. The better your ISO rating, the better the insurance rates.
Yep. Sure is.
So if we spend, and I know $6,000 a year is a huge thing, but this is one of those items that we really need to put a priority on because it has a long-term effect on the city, both this year on making sure that we have hydrants that are working and also for ISO ratings in the future. We have a huge problem with ISO rating. I'm going to tell everybody on this council this right now. We have a single fire station and we're split by a railroad track. It's going to affect our ISO rating forever. Until we get a station on the other side, and we're nowhere near any discussion about that.
So everybody knows, sorry to jump off topic a little bit. Frank, how many, best guess?
We have approximately 60 hydrants. This is based on that. What this would cover, they actually would paint our hydrants. They would identify the hydrants that do not work. The ones that do work, they would exercise and do a complete inspection on. If they can repair the hydrants, there's additional cost, but they will be able to gather me this list of what we need and what we can repair. I have other contractors to replace them that I could call in, but it gives us the absolute of knowing exactly which ones are operational, because even I have not had a chance to get to everyone in this town.
Scary.
I mean, they're just,
if I can ask,
time is not there.
One other question. This is the same company that inspects our water tower?
This is Capital Hydrant out of Georgetown.
Okay.
They are very accredited.
As long as that is, I'm more comfortable.
No, they're accredited fire hydrant facility.
Oh, I see where you were going.
So on questions on your statement you just said, when you say identify, is this identifying them as working or non-working, or is this identifying them for PSI rating?
This is they will do I can get them to do the PSI rating, that would probably be additional.
What's the difference? Do you have that cost difference?
They haven't submitted that to me yet.
We need that cost difference, which leads to my next question. Paint, if they identify it based upon PSI, will they paint them according to NFPA?
They are supposed to go by color coding standard.
Okay.
that is what I want.
Does
Instead
anyone-
of them all being all one color, you code them to what their pressure will do.
Does everybody understand what that means?
I do.
I don't.
Okay.
For the people that aren't firemen,
So-
minus you and Linda,
have
for the rest of us.
You have different ratings for a fire hydrant, okay? So like less than 500 gallons per minute. And they're different ratings. I don't remember them off the top of my head.
They go up to
You'll-
15.
You'll color the cap one color. So at night, when that fire department is going down the road, they can see and go, oh, that's a black hydrant, I don't need to tag it. Or a trash bag. You'll see trash bags on hydrants. That typically means it's not working. If you see a yellow, you've got, let's say, a range of 500 to 750 gallons per minute. If you see a green, it's another rating. If you see, I think blue's the highest, if I remember
Blue, I
right.
think, is the,
Blue is greater than 1,500 gallons per minute.
red is the standard, I think.
The difference in this also affects his water system, okay? So if I hook onto a hydrant with a pumper truck, and it is only a 500 gallon per minute hydrant, and I have a inexperienced engineer on that truck, and he starts trying to over pump that hydrant, he's going to collapse his system, especially if he's anywhere close to the AC lines and some of these clay lines in this system. We will collapse them in a heartbeat. So if we have a fire downtown, and one of those buildings is going up, and they try to hook onto something that isn't adequate, we're screwing his whole water system. So this will allow them to quickly go, I can hook onto this one, or this one, or this one. The other question for you is exercising, is that once or twice a year?
That right now is the one.
Okay.
Better than what we've got. We'll probably have to exercise them in 5 years.
It'd be awesome. One of the things on,
Or longer.
okay,
So,
I like that.
okay, well, I mean, if everybody's good with that, we'll just move on to the next page.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I believe I can, and I believe they actually will roll that into that.
It's just set cost here.
Yeah, and these, I'm gonna jump down, the equipment, all of that stuff up there, the roads, that's the cost of asphalt. One load of asphalt, and I've wrote a lot of checks for it, that's running, was about 2,500 a load?
It's $16.97. That includes the delivery, but now we are looking at our driver wants an extra $50 per load when he brings them in.
Okay.
So that's gonna be an increase, but
Okay.
the reason why I did that breakdown is to show you that I needed my old budget, which we didn't have because we couldn't print it because it's not working correctly. The program's kind of doo-wacky. But as soon as we get that fixed, what I need to show you is I will be increasing the amount budgeted for the road base and the asphalt, because in order to keep up our momentum of repairing these roads and trying to bring them up to a better standard, I'm gonna have to have more material. I mean, it's not well, I can wish it, it's not gonna happen. I gotta have the material, and I gotta have the money to purchase the material.
You've done good this year, and I mean, we spent probably more this year.
I did spend a little bit, but I also know that I didn't get other expenses, so we're still gonna roll out probably around 90,000 under budget. And I try not to touch my contingency, and I always try to stay under. I'll shop around afterwards. The main thing is, I do want you to be aware that we will need to increase the road base, we will need to increase the asphalt. This is try to keep going in an upward trend. I'm trying to keep us moving in that upward trend. My goal is, as you know, when I first started, we had just a few licensed people. It was the bare minimal license. I've got a new crew again, and I've got all them with their D license. Basically, one's ready to go take his D-wastewater, that'll be Clayton. And I've got Perry ready to try for his C water. That's a good thing, trying to get everybody up to par in the licensing area. I didn't have it. you know, we lost it. The two people that did have the double license Ds, they left. So we had to build up again.
So I'm showing on asphalt, last year we budgeted 5,500.
Yeah, I would like to up that to 10,000 if I can, on that line item.
What's the additional 3,000 for the roads?
Okay.
That's on asphalt.
Where?
It's 13,645 on roads.
645, 13,645, is that not your asphalt?
No, it's just showing what our department is on the road situation,
Are you
basically.
not gonna spend the same amount next year?
What I'm trying to do is increase so I can get at least 2 more loads of asphalt in for next year. I want to increase so that I can do more roads so that we can have
Oh, yeah.
better roads in town.
The more y'all can fix potholes, the better off the road's gonna be.
Right. Exactly, because we are not looking at new roads anytime soon. We're looking at our existing roads in which I need to repair.
But people are, they see that, and that's what.
By the way, congratulations on tree trimming around,
Just trying to wrap my brain around.
one street over, where I can actually see
They're
the
wanting to know what.
friggin' sign.
That's
Your fire station. Bob asked me about it, we went, actually, I did it, I just stood in the back of the truck and cut what I could until we could see a beautiful sign.
Sorry,
Whenever,
it annoyed me.
whenever I see something like that, it just drives me absolutely crazy, because sooner or later, somebody's gonna pop that stop sign because they can't see it. And they're gonna get hit, and then they're gonna wanna sue the city for not.
Yeah, no visible sign.
This is, we're just kind of getting our head around.
Okay, that helps me process
Yes,
this.
I did it when he asked me,
We
actually did it that day.
Back and whack out 80%.
Usually,
Hey, let's take it one step further and thank Frank and his guys for replacing all of the old faded stop signs that we didn't know were stop signs, except they were 6-sided signs.
Yes.
we have been doing that, and like I said, that 1,500 there on signage, that's another thing that we still got the momentum, there's plenty that still need to be replaced. And I need that funds there so that I can get them and keep going on that as we can. I'm trying, and as you know, this year we added the stop signs for the school, the intersections, you know, coming from the school. Any type of thing like that, I want to try to keep having funds to do that.
All right, I want to pick up the pace a little bit. I don't want Rachel getting home at 3 a.m. Give her a little respect there. The cemetery, 2,500, park maintenance, I guess those are kind of, so that's about 3,500, because those are kind of, I know a cemetery is not a park, but if I could just ask what the 2,500 for the cemetery, is that just like gas and fuel?
Okay, the cemetery, you know, albeit everybody thinks it just gets done by manpower, the equipment needs to be fueled, we need weed eater twine, we need just some light maintenance on the mowers.
Okay.
We do require the chemical expense, which is the weed killer, and I also included a little bit of that into the roads. We actually need probably about $4,000 line item for weed killer.
Okay.
Also, we have to do it in segmented purchases in order to avoid having to be licensed, in which I'm trying to get, but I gotta get time to be able to do.
All right, well, that's good. The backhoe repairs, I'll tell you all, Frank has discussed this with me. We have some transmission issues. The transmission pops in and out, so you'll be driving along, and then all of a sudden you're in neutral, and
Safety
a train's
issue.
coming.
That is the number one safety issue with the backhoe, because we are separated by the railroad tracks, and we do have a highway. If that thing was to pop out of gear on the tracks or on the highway, we are at potential accident risk.
So is it the transmission or is it the clutch?
It is actually a transmission because it's hydrostatic, there's no real clutch on those. The problem is they want $1,200 just to identify the problem, because they have to come in and pick it up and take it to their facility. Usually, if they have to rebuild a transmission, you're talking between 12,000 and 20,000.
Can I ask a dumb question? Linda Kent Pickle, look
He
at
could
this.
he could not get into it. He tried one year. He could not diagnose it.
Oh, okay. I mean, I.
Yeah, I already asked that.
I know he
I
works
just-
on
He
them.
had tried.
Calling that out because, damn.
I
See, I don't never. see-
possibly have a cure for it, but I'm not 100%. If I can, it will keep those funds for other stuff that does need to be done on the equipment.
Well, let's go ahead and elaborate on that. So if we know, if we're able to fix the transmission issue, I think most of y'all are aware that the backhoe rolled.
Yeah.
This was partly due to transmission issues and tires. Frank has already replaced the tires, so the tires are good. However, on the large backhoe, the fuel tank is leaking, so they can't fill it up more than 3/4. So
Actually, more than a quarter. Anytime they go more than a quarter tank, it will leak. Because there actually is a hole, they identified a hole in the tank, but the tank itself is like,
That's a safety issue.
yes, I've been
So-
dealing with this since I started here.
So when I talked to Frank about this, basically, I feel the 20,000 is necessary because if the transmission can be fixed, there's other things. We need to get that fuel tank fixed. We need to put money into our machines.
Yes, these are machines that are on the average $125,000 to replace.
I think on this,
Keep them
this is,
maintained is in our best interest.
the backhoe repair, at least to me, is a priority. Top priority.
Roughly 98, I believe.
Yeah.
During the day, you don't hear it go by.
You know, us not maintaining equipment was one of the things that I had to address right after Jim Trudell left. It cost us about $15,000 because every one of the vehicles over in Public Works hadn't been inspected in years.
They weren't doing.
Moving on real quick to keep this on, because I want to get into this next piece before we stay up all night. The fleet truck repair. If you can go ahead and speak to that a little bit, Frank.
Okay, we have, the city of Granger in 2005 purchased a brand-new truck. They purchased it for the road department. That truck is still here. It runs excellent. I have serviced it. As far as the running gear, that thing has 45,000 miles on it, and it's a diesel. It will last forever. The problem is, as many times as it's gone over the railroad tracks at who knows what speeds, because I wasn't here, the suspension will throw you out of the truck. It is shot.
It looks like a golf ball.
The front end, the tie rod ends are bad, everything, the front end needs rebuilt.
The bed's crushed. It's been abused.
It needs work, but the running gear of that truck, we would never get that on a used one. I mean, it's just that good. I mean, a diesel, for one thing, is very dependable. And if you maintain it properly, which we have got all that under control, well, it'll run us another 10, 15 years easy as far as the engine. Because we're not putting that much mileage on that truck. We drive it around town, and every once in a while, we run up to Round Rock to turn in our samples for our water. That's about it.
Four diesels, control arms, linkages, bushings, and front end parts and suspension parts. Those are the things that need to be changed about every 50,000 miles.
And the power steering pump is going out. It works sometimes and sometimes not. Well, if you're in it when you're trying to take a turn, believe me, you've got a bear on that thing. Safety issue again. We're looking at a safety issue on our vehicles. That's why you probably don't see it around town very often, because we drive it minimally with that. I say the power steering is definitely got to be repaired, but I don't want to do that until I get the whole front end redone.
That's something that we can definitely look into. So, moving on, thank you so much, Frank. And we'll, we know pretty much everything you've got on there is needed. We'll just have to kind of figure it out once we get into the budget. So, moving on to the 2018-19 budget worksheet, we're going to start out with interest and sinking up here at top. Annual budget of $135,534. Year to date, we spent $60,000. These are our revenues. These are our revenues.
And this is, ending June 30th, so we have 3 more months of revenue still coming in, so.
So, just moving forward, let's go ahead and flip one page. Year to date, we have spent $1,174,000 and we budgeted $932,000. So, I want to speak on this a little bit. If y'all will look at 01-145-4452 CBDG grant, I believe we've got a mistake here because year to date we have $54,000. $419,000 is in the expense line. Well, that money's been reimbursed by the county. Okay. So this is our new software that created this form. So I think we've got some issues here with this software. And so I'm a little concerned. Me and Rachel were going over this earlier today. So we don't really know where we are.
This is actually out of the old one. That's why it's June 30th. But it's because I had to go back to this one because the other software wouldn't even, that one was all messed up. But and both of these 2 front pages are revenues. So I think what happened is just this 419,000 may not, probably shouldn't have been in this line is what I'm thinking. But because I don't know the history of how everything was done before I got here, then I can't tell you right now. Because this is really, honestly, the first time that I've really been able to look at the budget. I mean, today when I was working on this is the first time that I got to look at it. Because they were doing everything, the software wasn't uploaded yet, and then they were just transferring everything. So I really hadn't had a lot of time with the budget yet.
So, and I'll tell you all a little bit, me and Rachel earlier today, we received an email from Williamson County for our taxes. We are supposed to send them back our debt load. We have not done that yet. Rachel's going to try to take care of that tomorrow. But the property tax, the amount that's supposed to come in is about $400,000 according to them. However, to take the debt load out of that, that's probably going to put us, I'm going to say between $250 and $300 of what we will have to add to our budget, because the rest of that 400, well, probably about 150,000, maybe 200,000 is going to go to service our debt load. And so, and we won't know what that exact number is until we get this document back to Williamson County, and then she'll draft it and give it back to us. So hopefully by next week, when we have our next budget meeting, we'll have those accurate numbers.
Part of that plays into effective rate versus current rate and all that.
And the effective rate,
This is how we get the effective rate.
The effective tax rate, and I believe it was 67 cents.
Yes.
So I'm going to, because you haven't been on council, I want to kind of give you a real quick breakdown on this, please excuse me. So every year we have a tax rate per 100 is how that's set, like 70 something per 100.
We're at 76 cents a 100 right now.
Okay. So because property values go up, the effective rate may be at 67 cents for this coming year. Because your values have come up, so you're collecting more revenue. So to make it the same total amount, you'd have to lower your rate. Just kind of give you some real quick breakdown on it. That's when we get into taxes and debt load and everything else.
To collect the same amount of money, we have to lower our taxes. Yeah. So, anyway, so that is something that I see as incorrect here. So the 419,000, I think that should be in a revenue. So I think we just need to slide that over. We'll have to clear that up. And so, but looking through, there's also some adjustments that we're going to need to make in all departments. Sometimes we've spent a lot on fuel, and Frank was actually telling me about this earlier. We have 3?
Yeah, what we did was, we're called the utility department, but they broke us down into 3 separate departments. So we've got extra line items that sometimes we don't use because we're using it in other areas. We need to try to condense and just pack this a little bit better or break it up to where we
Well,
can.
you need to know what you're using in streets, and I've noticed that y'all have street tax, which
We do.
I thought I asked y'all about that, and y'all said y'all didn't have that.
No, we do.
I didn't
We
know.
collect about, I believe it's about
And that
18,000 a
money
year.
can only, yeah, it said y'all budgeted 18.5 and y'all received so far 11.6.
Yeah.
So, when you're talking about streets, that money can only be spent on certain things. So you have to keep it separate as far as your street fuel or your
The
public
problem
works fuel.
is no vehicle, and no piece of equipment is for single use only.
So
That's the
I
problem.
got a way to fix that real easy. You create a mileage log or an hour log. And I say this because it really affects how we come about for our rates in the future. If we don't have a true cost for the water department, how do I appropriately set a water rate? If I don't have a true cost for the sewer department, how do I properly set a sewer rate? When we get into having a water and sewer rate study done, which should have already been done and it wasn't done last year, we have to be able to have some type of cost for those. We can't arbitrarily raise
Rates.
we should not arbitrarily raise those rates or base it upon surrounding cities. It should be really based upon our actual thing. So if we list all of our fuel under water, it skews what my sewer is. So we've got to figure out some way internally, and this is your management issue, of figuring out how to correctly attribute those usages. You pay percentages out. Somehow you've got to allocate those usage so that we have a good number for water rates and sewer rates.
We would have to take the total spent and just split it amongst the 3 departments, because a backhoe. We use the backhoe to dig, to repair water lines. We use the backhoe to dig and repair sewer lines.
Okay, and then that right there, when you're digging to do sewer lines, you take that amount of fuel and use it for sewer. When you're doing water lines, you take it for water. Okay, yeah, water and sewer are together.
The feasibility of doing that is great on paper.
That's part of being the
Essential
manager
reality,
on the budgeting. I mean, that's.
So let me ask a question, so, in order,
We can't do that. We can't do it. We don't even have an hour meter on our back.
How do you determine how much fuel is being?
We don't even have an hourly meter on the backhoe.
right. They're banged up.
They're not there. It's not there. It was when we bought them, we purchased bottom line. We don't
bought
have
them
the things to make it, to do that. That's my
I think they were
problem.
probably there.
I would have to just
think
do,
they were
as I
worth it.
said, fall back on an estimate. So you'd have to just divide it and go with 1/3 everything to make
You start
that.
tracking your time for the department.
Well, and then I've noticed that the guys, they're really not separated of anybody in streets or anybody in water sewer. Because I was asking Jerry, what are their actual titles? What fund do they come out of? No answer. I mean, she just says it's all in one, and that's not how it should be.
No.
It should be separated. You should have a street department, you should have a waterworks department, which is your water and sewer, and then you have a parks department. I mean, that's normally how it's broken up.
And in the past, I mean, we're such a small city that I understand that it's difficult, but,
Like I said, unfortunately, we do not have hour meters, which makes that extremely difficult to calculate the fuel for each job.
and really just the way we've been doing it, guesstimating is, there's probably a better way,
But the
but,
budgeting is totally off. I mean, you can look at,
I'll bring business into this. I have to keep track of how many hours my guys spend on a project.
Yep.
Otherwise, I go broke. So if we're not tracking, we spent 2 hours fixing AB's water leak, and we spent 4 hours fixing his brother's Jim Bob's water, sewer leak, I don't have true cost. We can't get a true study if we don't have those. So it can be as simple as putting something in a clipboard in a truck saying, we're going around town today and I've got 2 personnel and we're spending 5 hours fixing roads. You can do it simple. It doesn't have to be extravagant. You can create a form for the truck and say, okay, hey, we also had a backhoe here. Put a checkbox. There are some things that you could put together so that when you leave that job, quick and easy, you're done.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, because I've been there, I've done that, okay? But the problem here in Granger, we don't have the employees to designate as bean counters. That's what we refer to it in the business. You've got somebody who's gonna collect all this statistical information and correlate it and then provide a report on it so that we can base future expenses on it. We'd almost have to hire one full-time person to do that for the entire city.
I am a working supervisor.
No.
I'm just saying.
You don't.
We don't have the back information for this fiscal budget that you want.
I agree. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I want it for this
It
budget.
needs to be started.
What I'm saying is,
October the 1st.
we've got to start this for the future. It's a management for the future so that we can track these charges better. At some point, whether it's this year or a future year, we've got to do a rate study. We were supposed to have had it done already. That was one of the things tasked last budget period. And if we don't have good data, and it's not hiring a bean counter, it's somebody in a truck with a clipboard on an Excel spreadsheet that's already been printed out saying, this address or a work order that you're turning in saying it's completed, that you can document on. It goes to documentation.
Yeah, I mean, I do it every day, and I mean, it's basically, I walk into a hospital, I write the name of the hospital down, I write my mileage, I write how long I was in there, and I walk out, and I log about 96 of them a day.
And you still do the paperwork.
I do it as I'm working, but but I mean, and
it sucks.
It sounds like it's a lot, it is a lot of work because, on average, I log about 90, but the reason is I walk into a hospital and I see 30 people and then I write them all down. And so, it doesn't take too long. Now we have little softwares that monitor us, but, I still write it down and then in the evening I re-enter them in because the software is slow.
One of the things that happened this week is, while I was off on vacation, Fuel Man emailed me our first bill. It broke out what the police department purchased and what the public works purchased. The fire department hasn't made any purchases yet, so it didn't show up on the bill. But it also gave which units were filled up, what the mileage was, what the average vehicle miles per gallon was, so on and so forth, which is a good, useful management tool for us to use in the future once we build a database to capture the information. What I like about it is they, just before I left, they sent me a request for us to do a W-9 because they discovered that, hey, we are a city government and we're not subject to certain taxes. So that's going to lower the cost per gallon for our fuel even more.
Sorry, I'm just kind of looking through here in general, seeing if anything just like pops out at me.
When was most of the IT paid? Is that the
June. It was done in June.
I figured it was.
So.
I don't even know how we're gonna budget for part of this. The building inspector, How are you gonna budget for him if that subdivision starts?
Well, and this goes back to the reason Rachel wanted to do this fee schedule is the fee schedule should cover the cost of so essentially, we might budget for 10 grand, but if it blows up but we're gonna get 40 grand in fees, it should offset it as long as we've adopted good cost to cover them and that we're not taking them out of our budget. So hopefully we've hit it right where we need to. Here on the last, we've got, I'm sorry, I was flipping so fast I didn't even see. Oh, this is police department, so.
I wrote page numbers on the bottom because I forgot to put my footer on there before I printed.
No, you're all right. And then we've got the fire department. James Cervenka did say he needed to speak with me, and I have not had a chance to sit down with him. I'm afraid he's gonna ask for a new fire truck.
They don't need
I
it.
do notice one thing, there is a difference from my records and what I recorded as the budget that was passed by city council last year, and I still have that document, and what the bottom number is on the police department budget on this document.
What page?
Page 7, if you go back to my budget proposal, I show an FY 17-18 line there, $37,333.89. And this information here, wherever Rachel got it from, is showing $136,987.54, which is right at about $400 difference.
Well, don't forget this ends June 30th, so July's not in here yet.
Yeah, I mean,
It's close, is what you're saying.
It's close, but it's not exact, and I don't know where we're coming up with these different numbers.
Well, the reason is it's June, because we're almost at the end.
Not for what he's saying.
It's
He's talking about the
total budget, the actual.
Oh, okay.
But part of that could not have been put into the computer right too. Or the software could have done its thing, and I'm not trying to point fingers. You're dealing with software. That's kind of like, why do we have $419,000 in it?
And there again, it kind of drives me absolutely crazy, because I'm like Rachel, I've run budgets, and when numbers don't add up, I want to know why.
You don't have to know your year-to-date.
Huh?
You don't have to know your year-to-date, do you?
My year-to-date? Yeah, I do.
Where is it?
I've got it somewhere on my computer at the office.
Can you see more how close it comes to
I think I've got approximately $6,000 to $7,000 left in consumable budget items.
So having done this before, the objective to come through here to see what sticks out at you.
What I track is consumable budget items.
See what's out and basically
Salaries
see.
and benefits, I mean, that's
The
a
objective
given.
is to basically make sure the last several years.
Can you look at yours
we've been
what you had lined
trying
up?
to put a rainy day fund.
This,
And.
I mean, I could tomorrow.
The reason we bought that software and we did those.
I mean, this
pipe
thing here is not
replacements in between Christmas
making
and
much
New Year's,
sense to me.
that came out of our rainy day fund.
It's got line items in there that I wasn't even authorizing, and I'll give you an example.
And so, when I first got elected, we were spending the entire budget.
Right.
And now we're
Page 6.
To allocate a certain percentage over here for this.
Yeah,
I got you.
we can kind of build
And you
up
look at
for contingencies of little
utilities.
projects.
Stuff comes that needs to be done.
Okay?
Gotcha.
You see 5103, there's no money in that line item because it was moved over to administration. And yet, this is showing 5104, no money in there for the budget, yet I've spent $683.44 year to date. Y'all did not authorize me that line item last year in my budget. Why money's still being charged to that, I can't begin to tell you why.
Hey, if y'all look at page 9, and then kind of right there in the middle where there's a lot of, this is, Public Works goes all the way from page 9 to all of 13. So, but if you look at page 9, and then you'll see tools right there kind of in the middle. Y'all budgeted $200, and the year-to-date today, y'all spent $2,300 on that. But if you go to page 13, there's another section for tools, and y'all budgeted $800, but nothing was spent in that. That's kind of what I'm talking about, you know, dividing it up and figuring out what those tools are for. I understand tools are gonna be used for everything because they're tools. But we've got to figure out how to separate it. If you buy a tool for water and sewer, put it in water and sewer, even though you're gonna use it for everything else. If you buy a tool for, you know.
Okay, here's an example. What do you use a shovel for?
What did you buy it for?
What do you use a shovel?
Just assign it to a category.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, right? Just assign it to a category.
Well, but I'm making sure that
And roads.
We're gonna lose our minds on this, I
But
think.
the point she's trying to make is,
Just assign it
if
to.
you were out on a water leak and all of a sudden you needed a shovel, you said, okay, I assign it to the water.
Yeah, you
That's what
bought it
she's
for the
trying to
water
say.
that particular
She's not
day.
saying that you're going to be able to split it accurately 100%. But if you're out there and you realize you needed a pump, you might cross-use a pump. But you had this one water leak that you were needing it for right then, assign it to that appropriate department. You might cross-use it. And that's what she's trying to say is,
You will cross-use it.
when you have these different line items, all of that can't be just the water department. She's trying to make the point that you need to pull some out of obviously, you didn't buy all those tools specifically for water.
Right, because here, Public Works, you spent $2,000.
Well, this is more of streets, because you got street equipment, street supplies, culvert supplies. So
Right.
this $200 that you budgeted for tools, and y'all spent $2,300, that's saying that you spent it all in the streets. And then you come over here to page 13, and you didn't spend anything, I'm assuming that's water, because it's fire hydrants, and, nope, I'm sorry, sewer, because sewer plant repairs right there. So that means you didn't spend any tools for the sewer plant. So, and then that's kind of what Tim was talking about is, how are they gonna do a proper study if you're not budgeting anything into sewer, water sewer?
It's kind of like our utilities, they're easy though.
Yeah, there's
Because we
another
get a
tool
bill for
right
the
here.
racetrack and the.
I mean, it's gonna be on there 3 times,
Yeah,
I
it is.
believe.
Yeah, those are separate.
Because there's
Those are
3
real
different
easy to
departments right
define.
there, they're just not broken out, not even the employees are.
Frank, can I ask you a
broken out.
question? Do you actually put this stuff in there, or is this Jerry?
Jerry does a lot of the processing. I will put some of the,
Do you let her know? So if you, just so I
sometimes she'll
understand
call me and
this,
ask me.
if you buy a
Sometimes she
shovel,
won't. Depending on what happens is if we buy things from the feed store, 90% of the feed store stuff is purchased for the roads. The problem is they don't separate for my sewer or for my thing, so we end up putting everything in the,
But can't you write on the ticket, bought for?
they do like a monthly run on the ticket. That's how it's done there. And same thing with, I'm
so
sorry.
this is an administrative thing, yeah, because he's right, because those things, it's one deal.
He's talking about something totally different with the feed store. The old school,
Well,
you sign it.
no, it's a-
The pit stop is the same.
Gas, when we
I'm
buy our
trying to
gas.
explain that the people I deal with, that's how it's done. So it makes it very hard to divide it up to get
Let
it
me
paid, and that would be where it falls to.
I understand where you're
Our
coming from. Let me
account.
ask you a question, Rachel. So, let's say we fill up the backhoe with 300 gallons of fuel at the pit stop, and we do it 4 times, so that's $900, or 900 gallons, sorry. And they send us a bill for that entire year. And I sign that
Each
check.
time that you're filling it out, you should get a receipt of some sort, and you should put a code on it. Like, if you're filling it up because you know you're fixing to go do something for that particular thing, then you could code it as that. If you're keeping a log, like he was saying, you know, you're doing 3 hours
So
of.
does Jerry actually get those?
I don't know how they do it. Jerry, there's a lot of things that Jerry just
Okay.
does, but it's about
All right,
putting
we'll
your
look into
code
it.
on it.
And I mean, everything should go through the department head, they put their code on it, where it should go in the budget, and then Jerry should put it into the system.
Okay.
It should not go to Jerry first, it should go to them first, and then
Okay,
they
I'll
have
talk
to figure out where it goes.
Well, that'll just be a policy we'll have to come up with, because that way we can, because we can't, I see, because we've got a zero budget here, which means under this department, we could take the 800 and just zero this budget out, because we've literally spent none of it. And so, but over here, then we'd have to add 800, but that's not giving us a true cost.
I mean, okay, for instance, I have Catherine in the office, I have Janine in the office, and there's myself. When we buy office supplies, well, we buy a ream of paper, yes, we do, we divide that in three, because water's gonna use it, water sewer's gonna use it, economic development's gonna use it, and then I'm gonna use it. So that we would divide into three. But if there was something that, if we all did a list and we all bought something, then we take whatever I purchased, all of those little things will go under my line item that I want them to go under. Catherine, she'll take hers, she'll put hers under her line item, and then Janine will put hers under her line items. It could be a list of 20 things, and there's 20 different line items, but that's how you do it. You have to do the paperwork in order to put it where it goes.
Okay.
I mean, it's a little bit more work, and accounting is the hardest, especially with people getting receipts back, when people have credit cards. That's why I've always done a credit card policy. If you don't bring me a receipt, you're responsible for that charge, because the city has to have a receipt.
It's just a necessary evil.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
In business.
So if you don't mind me
I know you keep your receipts.
how do you deal with, because I do expense reports all the time, they're a nightmare.
Right.
Do y'all have something, because you're more in the parts, correct?
So as far as, I manage salespeople.
Okay.
So I'm going through their expenses, checking fuel, dinner expenses, overnights, stuff like that. I don't necessarily manage equipment, but I can certainly tune you into the people who do and figure out.
No, I mean, this would be something that I could call the public works director at, well, we could call Jonah, we could call some other people, because the Georgetown, and ask them.
Don't use Georgetown.
No, they're too big.
Most of their budgets are gonna be online, because you have to post your adopted budget online. So if you just go to any of these cities and look up a budget, kind of like that one that I showed you earlier, I wanna say that was, what was that?
I'm more looking for a policy and procedure of how they track it. Is there a software they use? Is there, you see where I'm coming from?
Well, no, a lot of the public works director is gonna be the budget. He should have his budget, and he should know when he gets a bill, he writes his line item on there, and then he submits it to the accounts payable.
Okay.
That is the way it's always been done in my 8 years.
I track every bill for my department, my line item. That's why I want to sign it, I want to see it. Which sometimes when Jerry takes off and does something that I haven't signed for, I get a little ticked off. But she's learned to provide me at least a copy of it now. I like to track what I'm spending, because at the end of the year, if there's an area that I've overspent in, and there's another area that I've underspent in, I can ask y'all to transfer funds from one to the other and give you a reason why. It's another form of control. Transferring funds shouldn't be done just because I want to.
Right.
Council controls the money and the funding and the oversight. So I track my expenses by line item every year, have since I've been here. Just like I did at the sheriff's office, although I did it for the whole sheriff's office.
But I don't, and I could be wrong on this, I don't remember doing line item transfers. And most places do.
We did them, the last time we did them was 2 years ago. I gave Andrew a list of line item transfers at the end of the last fiscal year. And he said, don't worry about it.
Yeah. And typically you do that for your budget for the next year.
Yeah, so.
You amend your budget, basically, is what you do.
Yeah. The right way to do it is by a budget amendment ordinance, okay? It has to be done that way.
Well, and Lynn's familiar, because the school did, they moved from one line item to the other, but that came before the school board. Correct. And so, typically here, that's something that started back with Jerry. They just move it around and council's unaware of it. And so, and that's something that mayor doesn't even do. That's typically something that comes before council. And at least from what I've noticed from other cities, that is a council decision.
Well, yeah, because council approves the budget.
Correct.
So council approves.
By direction of council, the department heads consult with the city administrator on financial issues. So I've always done that. I said, Andrew, we've got to move money from this line item to this line item to cover this expense. We're getting a little short. It's almost 1 month before the end of the fiscal year. The first year he was here, he did that. He brought it in here to council, and council approved the movement of the money. Last year, for whatever reason, I don't know,
It was just moved.
when I handed him the document that showed him what alterations needed to be made in my budget to make everything balanced, he said, and I quote, "Don't worry about it, it's all in the same pot of money."
And that's not how you
That's
do it.
not how you're supposed to do it.
I have control of the budget at all.
So,
Sorry, I'm not trying
Okay.
to beat the guy, but I just,
no, I understand.
I just don't like that way, I don't like that attitude.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part of what, and I hope neither of y'all take what I've said to offense. It's more the paperwork and trying to get everything done the right way. Kind of like going through and making the transfers the last month.
And this is
Those are little
policies.
things we need to start doing.
Here's what I'm gonna do, it's called Go the Extra Mile. I'm gonna build Frank an Excel program for all of his line items. We have the budget figures for his line items, I'm gonna put it in there, and I'm gonna show him how to categorize his expenses every month and every line item, so that he can keep track of what he's spending in every line item from here on out in his disposable budget. Disposable budget, again, being everything that's not a personnel cost.
Is there anybody else have any questions for tonight? And we need to make a
I
few.
did want to talk real quick about that.
Oh,
paper
yes,
that-
I'm sorry, go
No, no,
ahead.
you're fine. I added, this paper, which is kind of, I don't know, separating, because I've noticed that the city administrator, the finance director, and then the EDC director, or finance manager and the EDC director, are all pretty much under one, and they kind of also need to be split out from, city administrator, and then, finance and EDC. But this is what Catherine gave me, this page right here. This is from her budget that she's working on that application with for the Main Street program. So all I did was kind of take this, the numbers that she had on here as far as the first year, and add kind of like a budget separating it, so y'all can kind of see it a little bit easier, because on this budget that y'all have in the book isn't really, it's really hard to see what she would actually be spending. And some of it's not even, you see that she has her salary and then her taxes and everything, but then there's a class that she'll have to go to, which is going to be the travel and everything, that's $3,000. Professional dues and publications, $1,000, which is if she needs to purchase any supplies or whatever. Utilities for, I guess, $200, her portion of the utilities for City Hall. And then the incentive grants is something that she has, I think, on here. Let's see. Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay. So that was something that's in with that grant. And then the marketing and office supplies. And then she was talking about the yearly community events that may happen. So that put the 2,000 in there, and then 400 contingency. So that's kind of what her budget would look like. So,
Clean.
just so you know.
So what is the incentive grants?
I think that's, honestly, not sure. Oh, that's for the city to pay towards, I think, for like the facade or something that's with the Main Street program. It's kind of like putting it, the city's gonna pay something, so the citizens, if they have to pay something, we're kind of giving our part back.
she'll have to explain it to you, I think a little bit more. She was kind of telling me a little bit about it.
I'm gonna throw a couple things that aren't on here. The hall here is going to, and I have not spoke to Debbie. Chief did $200 a meeting. They're wanting to start charging us. We've been here, can anybody help me out?
2.5 years,
I'm sorry,
about 2.5 years.
2.5 years. And they haven't charged us for the use.
2.5 years late, yeah.
Yeah, so,
The Knights of Columbus would like us to start paying the $200 per meeting fee. Obviously, we can't do that till the new budget cycle starts in October. Debbie says she's taking a lot of heat from those guys. I would like to see us start doing that at least by October. We're averaging 18 meetings per year for the last 2 years.
We have saved the $200 a month we were paying on storage fee for our files, so there's the availability money
That's already,
there.
that's already built into our budget, so if we want to start paying that now.
Yeah, we can utilize
well, I don't know that was, we were spending it, but we didn't have a line item for it, necessarily the storage, did we? I don't think we did.
No, we just were spending it, and that's another thing that was just transferred out of wherever. A lot of this stuff was not, yes, a lot of it was not line items, a lot of it was just removed from the water
It's not in our
fund.
budget, so we have to check.
Probably why Rob,
So,
yeah, getting how that works now.
yeah, so it needs to be in there. So that was that one thing I just wanted to make everybody aware. Going on to the second thing, I had a conversation this afternoon with Catherine about City Hall, the old City Hall. When they redid the wall, they took the electrical box and conduit out of the wall to redo the masonry. That was removed and disconnected from the power pole. That would need to be reinstalled back on there. She's supposed to be getting Ash Masonry to come out and give us a bid to fix the door, the back door where it's cracked and that keystone fell out and broke. So Catherine said that we could probably do a ballpark number without the bid because she doesn't know when he's going to come. She thinks 7,000 would do that. And so that really doesn't sound that bad to me. But continuing on that, to put a new electrical box in, I had one done in one of my rent houses, so it was about $5,000. So, also to, reconnect the electricity, there's some carpentry work that needs to be done. Basically, all in, me and Catherine were talking about it, we feel that we could probably get the building operational for council meetings again for about 20,000. So, I know that's a chunk of money, but that would be the air conditioner. Air conditioner hasn't run in 3 years. It was working when we moved out. Probably need some plumbing issues done for that back bathroom.
Definitely, in the upstairs,
Well,
that bathroom's falling through the floor.
well, that bathroom would be removed, so my whole, and I'm just gonna tell you all my thought pattern on the building. We would just close off the top floor as we've always done. And so basically 20,000 would leave the lower floor usable again. And so, I know that's a big chunk, but we could potentially move back in. We could leave this stuff set up. But again, we don't know where we are in our budget.
Yep.
And so,
That'd be a determining factor.
so there's another determining factor there. So I just wanted to throw that out there so that y'all know,
I do.
we're doing so much better than we were doing 5 years ago when I first got elected, and we're probably doing even a lot better than, because Linda and Monica, y'all were on a year or two before me,
2012 we got on.
and it was, I can't even imagine how much we've improved since then. But then I wasn't even around at that point.
Amazing.
So, 'cause I remember my first deal, we were 400,000 upside.
Train wreck.
So,
I'm going to make a comment on City Hall. what that doesn't also include is we're gonna have extra utilities and all that too.
That is
That's also
correct.
something that-
New electric.
I like the idea of being back in City Hall. I think we need to get there because it's a symbol and it needs to happen.
Do you want to move the administrative operations of the city back into that building?
I don't think we're
Or
ready
just,
at
or
this
just
time.
keep it for council meetings solely?
I know
For
that-
council meetings?
Go ahead, Frank.
I know that my line items are not exactly perfect, but I can tell you to this, that when we end this year, there should be $80,000 in my budget that can go to repairing and reopening City Hall. That money will be there. Last year, I paid off the Clausen bill, which was $80,000 out of my budget. So it'll be there. We could go ahead and set up and go towards reopening that. I don't have final figures because I never get the budget. This is something that I don't get that makes it very hard for me to do what,
Well, something that would be good in the future is to make sure you get a quarterly budget update.
yeah, I don't.
And that way you can match your numbers with what the accounts payable has.
You know what I get? Oh, I think you need to slow down on spending. That was what I got.
I think we can change that for you in the
I
future.
think that's one of those things, there's a lot of little things, administratively, staff-wise, there's a lot of little things that need updating for the betterment of the city. I'm going to say this because you brought it up. Both you and police chief and other people have saved the city money every year for the most part, they've tried. And that's very commendable, and I'm very impressed with how much you try to save. But we also have a lot of things that need.
Yeah, we need to spend it, but as I said, we can open that City Hall, which would save that additional 200 cost. Money's there.
So Frank, I did
I
some
would-
figures.
For one thing, I did notice just recently that we're still carrying the old City Hall address on our tax number, which we really shouldn't be. A lot of things haven't been transferred like we're supposed to do for addressing.
No, there's a lot of issues.
If we
and-
get the old City Hall opened, whether we are actually completely occupying it all the time or not, that would alleviate a lot of the issues. It would put us back into a compliant situation, which we do need.
I can tell y'all, the old city hall is 5,000 square feet on the first floor and 5,000 square feet on the second floor.
Yeah. We can, like I said, we can reclaim that out of, I know those funds are there, they are there. I'm sure Rachel's seen some of the budgeting. We're gonna end okay on my budget as far as the overall amount. We'll have the funds to start the City Hall if you wish to actually start it as soon as next month.
Okay, Frank, I did some figures. Chief said we had probably about 18 meetings average per year. At 200 a meeting, that comes out to $3,600. So let's just round it up to 20 meetings, that's $4,000. So in 5 years, we would be way off in the better. It's in our interest, it's a benefit, we've paid it off, paid into something, not paid rent. And then using City Hall, that will make people so much happier, because that's one of the questions I constantly get. Are y'all ever gonna finish it? What's going on?
What is
So
stated now,
seeing
we stayed
us
on
in there would
for
help.
5 years.
It would help a lot just to see us in there.
Do y'all have any problem though for us in the meantime to start paying for the use of this space until we can get in there?
Well, I think we should. It would be the appropriate thing to do.
Can't make a decision.
Because,
Well,
Mayor
yeah, that would need to be approved by the council. I mean, I'm okay with it, but.
yeah, we're gonna have, you're gonna have to put it on a regular agenda item. It can't be done tonight. So I think we need to cross that bridge.
We can put that on the next.
For sure.
I think we should.
So,
Okay, so I have a question for you guys. Okay, typically what I've done in the past for my council is I've gone through the budget and I've put in the figures. Are y'all planning on doing this line by line and putting in the figures, or do you want me to put in a guesstimate figure from the previous budget and from what we're currently at, and then go line by line then?
That's the way, if you would do your,
I love you for that.
yeah, if you do it, the reason, it keeps the council meeting shorter.
Okay,
It also, sometimes you're going to be able to make a better educated guess, because you're going to be able to ask questions. You can call Frank and say, hey, what about this? He goes, well, I don't know, let me call you in 4 hours after I get that price. Whereas we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to have to kick it to the next council meeting. So my preference would be to put your number in there, and we can ask y'all, and we can move them up or down.
all right. Well, what I'll do is I'll get with Jerry and see if we can kind of separate some of that out to where it's a little bit cleaner. And I think it'll be easier to budget from there.
Okay.
I mean, if that's okay with y'all.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Kind of like the minutes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Nope, second.
All right, all in favor?
No doubt.
All right, all opposed by the same? All right, seeing none.